Alrighty, I think YouTube likes us. All right, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Smudcast 94. And we're looking at another Jessie Gender video. Yay, Jessie Gender. Oh, how exciting. Jessie Gender is talking about the disingenuous arguments from the FandomMenace. And this could be anything from Twitter mobs to long, detailed quotes on the comment section of her videos. We're not sure yet. But it's all thanks to, I believe, Fairy Joker. Do you see him in the middle? He's the
Hello,
grim.
everyone.
Hello, Fairy Joker. Thanks for joining us. So it was his recommendation, and he's been recommending a lot of other videos, so I thought we'd bring him on because this one has been a long time coming, or I'm not sure exactly how long it's been on the list, but it's like, you know what, you've been requesting a lot. We thought we'd have you on. And we have another gentleman by the name of BB on the left-hand side, and he's also been recommending a few others, and we haven't gotten around to them because we really suck at voting here on the Spudcast. We just sort of...
Look, it's not our fault there's nothing really to vote for. They're all terrible. Why do you keep suggesting terrible videos?
This is technically true, so...
They end up in my recommendation, so what can I do?
What exactly are the options here? Like, let's go to this voting. So we either have, is anime cursed, or Catherine full-body psychosexual, or we have radical feminism is a gift to men, or decolonizing games. Lots of brilliant options here.
Yeah, it's just filled with all sorts of the usual suspects like Renegade Cut and some Maggie Mayfish crap and all sorts of other weird fellows on YouTube. But the TED Talks is like this big list, so we knocked those off a bit. And those are relatively, like, the format's original. We know what we're doing with them. So it's all very similar. And Jessie Gender is just a fanboy girl after Star Trek and Star Wars because she loves them both. So it's like, all right.
Oh, God, she was saying that episode 5 of Lower Decks was absolutely amazing, and she was fangirling over the fact that they had a reference to Enterprise in the terms of the Suliban.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, they improperly reference the Suliban because it's only a specific cabal of Suliban which have the shape-changing ability that have been specifically genetically engineered, but hey.
Yeah, okay.
It's either the show got the reference wrong, but it was a reference nonetheless.
Yay, they said a thing.
Jessie Gender loved that reference so much that she rated it a 10 out of 10.
A 10 out of 10. I can do references, yay!
She can put away that fangirling sometimes. On her Picard video, the season review, she actually tore it apart quite a bit. Of course, she reversed it right away by saying, "Oh, but it doesn't matter."
Oh, yeah.
Lore. She can't put it away. She can look at things critically. She just chooses not to.
It's very obvious when it comes to things like her review of Star Trek 2009. Everything's just, oh, it's amazing. Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so perfect. It's like, can you please explain that? Oh, it's amazing.
So this is her take, not in Star Trek, but in Star Wars. And I think Shiny is pretty much okay to be here for that, to hear everything. I'm just going to be casually listening because I don't really care personally. But we've heard these arguments before. We've done a video about this before. I'm expecting the same sort of, oh, it's some horrible person on Twitter, therefore bad everyone sort of arguments. But, what do you know?
Well, she's actually talking about the FandomMenace, like the YouTubers. She's not talking about people that she's met on Twitter or comment sections. She's talking about the creators.
That's fine. I mean, it could be from any context, any social media, but I'm sure she's going to paint them all with a broad brush anyway.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah. So... Nothing new, nothing too amazing. But yeah, let's get going. Before we get started, Joe Crazy with the super chat. Thank you, sir. The cast is growing. Yes, I know. I accept people on stream. I accept all videos. You know, whatever you guys want to recommend for videos or media, I'll be happy to consume and share and share the pain with everyone else. You know, we need fresh blood because we have some drifters in here on this podcast like Evan and Southpaw. I haven't seen them in a while. A few months at least.
I need to fire them.
I have to fire them, yeah.
They haven't been working. They need to be fired.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's get going. Hey, Voice, how's it going? I just saw you there.
Good day. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going? Everything great on your side?
Not bad, I suppose. I've been doing absolutely nothing over the weekend. I was at a wedding, of all things.
That is a good reason to do absolutely nothing. So good excuse. I would definitely agree with going to a wedding and the next day doing absolutely nothing. So
Yes, but I'm back now, finally, after finally deciding to get my ass in gear and do something.
good stuff. Okay. Well, we're looking at the FandomMenace with of all people Jessie Gender, the Star Trek fangirl. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, fun. So here's John Lemley again. Damn, I'm going to have to improve my bribing game a lot. Capitalism bad. John, if you wanted to come on, you just got to ask. I'm not.
You
know.
paid like hundreds of dollars.
I know, you're crazy, dude. Like, what are you doing?
I'm pretty sure he owns us at this.
He's pretty much the producer of Smudcast.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say. John
Maybe
Lowe
he owns you.
producer.
I don't know. I'm just a guest.
Or executive
he-
producer, at least.
He indiscriminately owns Smudcast. Yes, pretty much how it goes. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open on the Discord. You guys can at me anytime you want. I'm pretty responsive. The problem is I can't do much on my actual box aside from cast and stream because my hard drive's toast. So I can't actually make videos in any reasonable
Oh,
time.
no.
So plus I
1A.
gotta wait to buy a new computer because they're coming out with new AMD NVIDIA cards. I think next week, and the prices are going to drop. So I'm like saving my money. Like, all right, it's just wait until good hardware comes out or better hardware. Wait for everything else to drop. See where the state of custom builds are online, and there's so many great stores out there. So just waiting, and then I have my scripts ready to go. I have my audio ready to go, and then I transfer over. It's a long process, and I don't want to give anyone presumption. So I thought we'd do a few more Smudcasts with a few new people and just keep things going. So I don't bore you guys waiting for my next videos. So anyway, let's get, here we are. Bogue, here we go. I can't do much from my box. Exactly. I'm pretty much screwed. My box is a little 120 gig hard drive, which barely runs Windows and all the other apps I have on it just to boot up. So anyway.
See, this is why I don't use Google Chrome, because out of the 8 RAM that I have, it eats up like 7 of it.
I doubt that it takes up 8 RAM. I'd say you probably have more, like 4, maybe 2.
No, I swear.
How the hell is it taking up 7 gigabytes of RAM? How many windows do you have open?
Because Chrome is a pile of shit.
No, it isn't. You're using,
is,
what is
though.
it? Internet
You're just wrong.
Explorer. Internet Explorer is a piece of shit.
I'm using Microsoft Edge, actually.
Oh my.
Well, before you were using Internet Explorer when you started shitting on Chrome. At least Edge is a little bit better.
Oh,
Just not by much.
oh dear.
Hey, Explorer doesn't take up as much RAM. The reason why it's slow is because it's inexpensive to run, and you can actually have it in the background of your computer while also running Adobe Premiere and
You know,
Photoshop.
I use Chrome in the background while I'm doing 3D renders. It takes up nothing because my computer's not retarded.
Okay, guys, we could have
Fuck you.
browser wars later, okay? Especially with me in the room. I'm a web developer. I'm going to probably get angry regardless of what anyone says.
Crickets.
So,
Awkward turtle.
alrighty, let's get going.
Oh boy, so let's do this. So I try not to do videos on the Fandom.
Is anything
Menace,
playing?
a group of YouTubers
Oh, it is.
who form together to combat what they believe as creators of their favorite franchises or people that are coming in to take over their favorite franchises and attacking them and trying to shove in their liberal SJW politics into this pop culture.
How do you define attacking? There is a big difference between criticizing and attacking.
Shut up, Shiny.
Criticizing
You use
someone.
Chrome.
Is not attack. Shut up, voice. No one wants to hear from a clanker.
No, not only that, but to ignore the fact that SJW or liberal politics are in these shows now where they weren't before, or at least content has increased, is disingenuous herself.
It's not the fact. I agree that you shouldn't put all your politics into film, but it's the problem isn't like the politics itself; it's how it's impacting the story exactly. So, and often having such a terrible agenda to put into your show. I'll use Doctor Who as a very good example. Doctor Who, if you don't know, had a character called Bill, who was a lesbian, and her entire character trait was that she was gay. That was the only way they defined the character, and every 5 minutes she would make sure that you knew she was gay, and as a result, she was a terribly written character and very poor. So the fact that I would say the politics and it's more the motivation, but it actively hurts the writing, and the problems in the writing is the biggest problem.
And there's nothing inherently wrong with having this or that character of any sexual disposition, or even for the sake of having, let's put some social issue up on a story. That's fine. We see that a lot in Star Trek. It happens all throughout cinema, all throughout TV. It's when it's blatant, or it's there for the sake of it, as opposed to being part of a plot or a character growth or moment or whatever. So
yeah, especially when that character is nothing more than their sexuality or their gender or their race. Because it's really insulting everything to the character because your entire personality isn't, oh, I'm gay or I'm straight or I'm black or I'm white. You're more than just that.
I have a question about Doctor Who. Is it my imagination, or are the companions getting dumber and dumber with each new season?
They have to, because the writing for the Doctor herself is getting dumber and dumber. So they have to make the people who tag along stupider by comparison, so the Doctor still seems smart.
At the beginning, Mickey was pretty dumb.
I mean, the first girl. I mean, I'm talking about from like the ninth. It was the ninth Doctor on. Rose was pretty average intelligence, and then you get to what's her name, the redhead.
Well, it was Martha, then Donna.
Yeah, Donna. I skipped over Martha. Martha, I don't know about Martha.
Why'd you say that name?
Sorry. Yeah, Martha. I completely forgot about Martha. But yeah, Donna was just like, oh my god, why is she? It's like nobody's that dumb, right?
Oh, God,
and then you get to Bill, and like the first ever scene I ever saw her in was a clip of her walking into the TARDIS going, oh my god, it's like a kitchen. And I'm like, okay.
Okay. I really hated Donna. She was one of the most annoying characters ever.
So
yeah,
the issue...
she sorry to cut you off. She even made a comment on like some talk show. She's like, well, the companions are supposed to be kind of stupid. I'm like, yeah, but not that stupid.
So the main issue we're having here is not the fact that there's this or that idea which is leftist leaning or political. It's that the writer or author is just shoving it in our face for no other reason aside from the writer and author wanting to do it. So it makes the audience feel stupid when we see, what does this have anything to do with the story, really? And it's there, and we know why it's there, and that's what it's kind of like seeing looking behind the curtain and seeing the guy pulling all the strings. Like, oh, this is what, like, it takes you away from the whole idea of watching a show or reading a book. You're pulled out of the story.
It's putting your politics before the writing itself, and then just proclaiming because you have politics in your work, therefore it is good writing.
Not only that, but it's just overwhelmingly partisan. They just have a certain point of view that they want to push that isn't where most of the audience is. So, where a certain subsect of the audience agrees with the politics being put forth, then that's fine. But then everyone else feels alienated. They either tune off or tune out, or they get upset.
All right.
If that makes any sense.
Here's a super chat from Bogue. Imagine not using Brave. Brave is an actual browser. It's very eclectic. It's not. It's definitely not mainstream, but it's supposedly more faster.
Know what that is.
It has VPN access, all these other features that you might want in a browser. I don't personally recommend it because it's not a standard, but you guys might like using a lighter, faster browser. Brave is definitely one of them. So anyway,
well, voice, if you didn't have a shit PC, then you would be able to use Chrome.
Well, I mean, the fact that Chrome requires something other than a bog standard PC that you can just buy off the
You
shelf.
can
is
run
kind of
Chrome
sad.
on a potato. You can run
Well,
Chrome.
clearly you can't, because my computer's as simple as it gets.
What? Are you trying to run it on like a 1960s radio?
But by definition, the
Are
fact that
you
it
inserting it
requires
into a physical toaster?
by definition the fact that it requires more sophisticated, more update, and more costly hardware to run at an efficient rate in comparison to something like Edge, which can just do it with a bog standard laptop or PC, shows how much Chrome is inferior because it expects so much from you.
I have absolutely nothing to say on this topic.
It'd be me like saying, yeah, you can fuel up at this gas station if your car costs more than $300,000.
Because that's not even the right analogy. Because almost any computer can run Chrome, unless it's
any
from
computer can
the
run it, but
1960s.
efficiently you have to have better hardware, which I don't have because I don't invest money into this thing beyond the simple software I need to do my work.
There you go, Johnny. Leave the man alone.
Well, he tried to say, "What are you from the Dark Ages? You use Chrome, like on a couple of Smudcasts back." It's like, "Well, you
never
use?
said
Oh,
that.
I use Internet Explorer. That's much more advanced and high tech these days."
You know, I have clients, or I used to have clients that use IE7, and we had to make websites just for that, and that was hell. But you know what? It was a lot lighter than Chrome.
I just like arguing for arguing's sake.
Okay, well, let's just keep going and focus those arguments on whatever Jesse's going to be saying here. Let's go through them. Let's go through 3 super chats, and then we'll get back to the video. Here's Joe Crazy. Almost forgot. Here's a daily Kingdom Hearts quote. Oh my God! Please, Joe, what are you doing to me? Don't make this a thing. What are you doing, sir? You're driving yourself. Kyrie's inside me. Thank you. I really needed to know that. That's great. Thank you, Joe. That's fantastic. Oh dear. If you guys don't know, that is from a video game called Kingdom Hearts, where the hero absorbs essentially the soul of characters inside them. It's very, very strange, and that's Disney for you. Disney and Squaresoft. All right, John Lemley. I'd say a lot of these writers now get into the positions they are in specifically so they can express what they think and so that their voices matter. You know what? It's an interesting question when you're talking about what's happening in Hollywood the past 15 years. They're being more expressive, more progressive with their ideas, which they've always had. And that's fine. You can do whatever you like in your media. You are the creator, so long as you're focusing on telling a good story. You can do whatever political vantage, any kind of character, any disposition. It should not matter so long as you do it well. That's all we ask, is a decent story. And when you have soapboxes, when you have these writer on board moments, it's really painfully obvious because they don't know how to shimmy it in there to make it connect. So that's my main problem with any of these ideas. All right, Bogue, Shiny, simping for Google Chrome. It truly is 2020. Yeah, I don't think he's simping for Chrome. I think he's just being mean. Right?
I just want to argue for argument's sake. It's fun.
Chrome does suck up a lot of resources as soon as it boots, but other than that, it's fine. It's great.
It's kind of like Minecraft. You wouldn't think that it would take a lot of power, but it really does.
Wait. How much power is Minecraft taking up?
No, I mean, even on a regular computer, just not a high-spec gaming machine, you feel a lot of pressure from the system. Lag and whatnot and loading times.
Okay, I'm not going to even touch that.
I've seen kids on the bus play it on an iPad with no problems.
Yeah, you can play it on an iPad, or you can even play it on your phone. It's
a streamlined version, so those aren't full-blown.
Yeah, I was going to say they are stripped down in order to be usable by those devices. You can't run the desktop
Xbox version and the PC version, and I think even the iPad version. They're all like using the exact same thing. They're all compatible. In fact, the Java one's different, but the ones which are specifically made for the never mind.
Okay, let's keep going. Here's Taker610. Why is Professor Tosspot, Voxus Productions, riding the Enterprise with a black person? Okay, I'm completely lost. What are we talking about?
Okay, so I mentioned this before last time we mentioned Jessie Gender. That's Picard and Worf on the Enterprise. But it looks like Voxus.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, it does look like Voxus. You're right. That's kind of cute. I like that.
I just want to imagine that it is Voxus now.
With that voice, and he's bitching all the time. That's great. Not reading.
Whoa.
Not reading any of that erotic short stories that I was forced to endure. That 100 episode of EFAP, but yeah, okay. Joe Crazy. Don't diss Internet Explorer Chan Shiny. Oh, you know what? I will diss Internet Explorer as long as I live. Okay.
Well, it's Edge now, so it's Microsoft Edge now.
Edge is not Internet Explorer.
HTTP 5? What would you? Dark Ages?
HTTP 5. What? What are you talking about, Shiny? HTTP 5. What do you mean?
It's fine.
Was that a joke on a protocol? Okay.
Just keep going.
Just keep going. Fine. John Lemley, choose your fighter, IE6 or Safari 5. Whoa, you're going really far back. Jeez. You know what? Safari, just not to say anything bad about Safari, but back in the day, it used to be the standard. So, you got to give it that. But then it got just eclipsed very quickly. So.
Yeah, it used to be the standard and still is the standard are very different things.
Yeah. So that was a long time ago. But, yeah, you can't even get Safari on Windows anymore. So, I mean, you can download it, but it hasn't been supported for a decade or so. Anyway.
I'm confused. Why are some people in chat pretending like they haven't seen Jessie Gender before?
Yeah, Jessie Gender. Sorry?
Like, because they're confused if she's a man or she's a woman and, like, wondering why she's wearing makeup. It's like, haven't you seen her before?
Yeah, she clearly is trans or transitioning. Yes, it's strange, but that's the beauty of YouTube, the beauty of modern day politics and people and expressions and all the joys of...
Yeah, we will not judge you.
Yeah.
But chat will, apparently.
But chat has no problem saying exactly what they feel, and that's totally fine. Okay, 20 seconds in. Let's go.
Culture that they love so much and attack the poor, straight white man. But really, when you boil it down...
See, this is what I'm getting pissed off. They always seem to make fun of the white male heterosexual. I don't know why. Is it a joke? Are we a joke to you, sir? Ma'am? Is this a problem here? Are we weak?
She's, acting like our complaints are crazy. When they actually come out and say things like the dangerous person right next to you is a white man, I mean, it's obvious. It's not crazy.
Here's a Bogue. You can cut a diamond on that jawline. Yes, she has a very defined jaw. Yes, she does. This is true. She also has breasts, so I'll give her that. It balances out, guys.
A lot of this is just a bunch of people using rage and hate clicks to fuel their popularity on YouTube and other social media platforms and spouting the same hyperbolic and often offensive...
Okay, she's reading from a script. Obviously, we're not fueling hate, okay? Maybe some channels do, but we just express our emotions as best we can because we can't stand...
we don't fight what we hate, but we save what we love.
Oh, dear. Do we really, Shiny?
Yes.
Okay. I know I don't, but okay. John Lemley, the straight white man, Jessie, they're attacking you. Oh, no. Oh. Jessie's attacking herself. Oh, dear.
I'm not oppressing anyone. You're oppressing yourself.
Oh.
At anything that is even slightly different from what their memory berries are, or centers genders or minority groups just a little too much more than they would like. Now, again, I know that that's a lot of hyperbolic statements myself, and overly reductive of a lot of these people's viewpoints, but I do want to take this video to dive in a little bit into some of their views that I find especially problematic. Because if you look up Star Trek on YouTube or a lot of social media platforms, but especially YouTube right now, especially reviews of the latest episodes, the FandomMenace videos are typically the ones you're going to see because you gotta get those hate clicks, baby.
No, it's just they're popular.
Just insanely hyperbolic stuff like
no, they show up because they're popular, and a lot of people like them.
Yeah, Jesse, people do not like the show. That's why they're popular. They're not popular because they like a YouTuber who does things all the time. If I make a video about some topic that no one cares about, no one's going to watch it.
The majority of the people who care about this stuff are the people who hate it. That's what's going on. Is that the FandomMenace channels are the ones making the content for these shows. If there was an overwhelming number of positive reviews for these things, and people were interested in seeing those things, those would be the videos getting recommended. Those would be the ones at the top of the search.
And we've had these videos for, since Picard aired, they've been very popular. Millions of views for people looking at Picard content, the plot analyses, or just episode by episode. It's not that great a show. So I don't know if she hasn't watched them all and her opinion's different, but it's just like, come on. It's not all hatred. It's just like, look at this. This is bad because XYZ.
Get those hate clicks, baby. It's just insanely hyperbolic stuff, like worst show ever. Come on, we live in a universe.
Are you trying to talk to us about hyperbolic right now?
Housewives franchise or my YouTube channel. And like I said before, I've actively avoided.
Yeah, let's compare a sci-fi franchise to a show about a bunch of women committing adultery. That's great. Yeah. That's one thing you don't do is you compare apples and oranges and say, look, this is dumber than the other thing because it's not an apple. It's like, no. Compare two genres or two media of the same genre. Try that. That might work.
Talking about, I try to stay positive on this channel, really focusing on sharing things that I love and not get bogged down in stuff I hate or getting bogged down in just conversations that frustrate me, because I really don't want.
I'm not frustrated.
The conversations that the FandomMenace fuels, these hate click and hate fueled rants, to really control the conversation around Star Trek and my favorite franchises overall. It would just limit what I feel like I have to.
I don't want to talk bad about the thing I love so much. Oh, it just makes me feel bad. It's like, great.
Welcome to the club. When something you like is actively being shat upon, yeah, it feels bad.
And how is what she does any different when she gives everything a 10 out of 10? So we dislike it, and she likes it, more than is reasonable. From her perspective, there's where she being overly positive, no critical analysis, 10 out of 10. How does that add anything to the conversation?
Yeah, she's basically just fangirling the entire time.
I love.
Say. I'm not here to create drama or insult anyone specifically, and I'll be clear, as I do this video, I'm not insulting any specific YouTuber or them as a person, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the other reason that I don't talk about them often is because it's just so easy to tear apart their arguments. I mean, insanely easy. And that's the point that I actually want to hone in on this video, because at the start of every new Star Trek show or season, I always at least check in with these channels to see if they have anything new to say or anything to add to the conversation. And time again, I'm never surprised because they keep cycling through the same 6 basic talking points over and over and over again, applying them disingenuously and unintelligently to whichever show they wish to hate on at the time because it sounds good, it's easy
trying to talk about Disingenuous.
Really gets those hate clicks going.
If the content isn't changing and they keep putting out the same stuff, people are going to be saying the same things about it.
Here's Bogue. I actually agree with the man thing there. War for Cybertron came out at the same time, and no one paid attention to it, but Lower Decks kept getting vids. Huh.
Well, because War for Cybertron is meh. I'll admit that, yeah, it's pretty meh.
Whereas Lower Decks is just painstakingly bad. It's just
Also, you can't stop people from making videos or making content, or for people from watching those videos and content. I'm sure people were making videos about War for Cybertron, but you can't really control what people are interested in watching or talking about.
Yeah, I get people from I don't know, all walks of YouTube that love a certain fandom, and I am bashing it, and they'll hate it. He's like, "Why did you make this? You're stupid. You're this." It's like, yeah, YouTube just recommends all kinds of content they haven't seen yet as they watch more. So I'll get like 20% dislikes on a video or whatever just because. So it just happens with the algorithm that YouTube provides for every viewer. So, and if you don't pay attention, then you're not going to listen to the arguments. And she has apparently 6 repeated statements by all these same YouTubers. So, all right, that's fine. She paid attention at least, something. Here's Tyler Preston. One of the comments called Data Mary Sue. Is that a username you mean? On her video, I assume? Data?
I'm assuming one of the comments called Data a Mary Sue.
Oh, okay. Really? Okay, that's, yeah. Probably not the most intelligent argument to make, but hey.
It's quite the claim.
Yeah. It's like he's a android. That sort of answers the question there. Why is he so amazing? Android. How do you do these things? He was built that way. Why is he so weird? He was built. Do you know what a computer is? Here's Bogue again. Sure, Shiny. I need 50 vids telling me LiteratureDevil is trash or Lower Decks is trash. Oh, okay.
Dev is trash. Well, the thing is, not everyone's watching all the same videos, and really, it's the viewers that were, apparently people do because they are watching these videos. Again, it's just YouTube recommends based on watch time. So if someone's watching these videos more than other videos, then they're going to get recommended to other people. It's just how it works.
War for Cybertron just needed better marketing. I think that's part of the
Not
problem.
only that, it needed better voice acting, needs someone to look over the script a couple more times.
Yeah, well.
Peter Cushing was not even... I might talk about it on my channel at some point, but Peter Cushing was not even approached for this, and he was a little bit upset by that. It's because it's done by Rooster Teeth. I thought it originally wasn't because I didn't see a Rooster Teeth logo, but apparently it was. That explains a lot of the problems that were happening with the show.
And these points just add so little to the conversation, like I said, and are so far from actual critique that when I checked in again when
Jessie Gender, you add nothing to the conversation. You just say it's great because it's great.
Frustrated to see them going over and over and over the same talking point that I felt like.
Gee, maybe because the same problems keep popping up.
Jessie, you do the exact same thing, but with the positives. Peter Cullen, not Peter Cushing, sorry.
Here's LiteratureDevil doesn't have the best laugh on YouTube. This was kind of funny. They did a poll on EFAP who has the best laugh, and they forgot to include LiteratureDevil from like all the people that were on EFAP, and everyone in the comments were like, "Where's LiteratureDevil? Why is he listed? I wanted to vote for him. He wasn't there." This is EFAP 100 when it's almost done, and they're doing this poll later in the day.
LitDev has this beautiful laugh. It's evil and maniacal.
It's like personally hilarious and evil at the same time. He just cackles at you. All right.
I just needed to do addressing it. So let's take a look at some of their repeated talking points, which I'll list here, right here, or maybe on this side. I forgot which side I framed my video, so apologies, but the list is up there. And we'll see how they're applying them to Lower Decks and other recent Star Trek shows. And before we get started, like I said
One
before,
sec,
I'm not
just
really
pause a second with the
creating
points.
drama or
Just pause at the points again. Okay, so let's see. So Mary Sue, Mariner is a Mary Sue. Yeah, belittling men. Yes, it does because Boimler is belittled every 5 minutes. Canon. Yeah, because it breaks canon a lot of the time. Yet 4, yes, is against Dean Roddenberry's vision. 5, Lower Decks isn't too dark, but Picard and Discovery definitely are. And 6, the creator hates you. I suppose you can't really argue that specifically, but it does seem like they have either a very strong ignorance or a very strong malice.
Yeah,
which
so-
I always say, don't attribute to malice what can easily be explained by ignorance. But at this point, there's a lot of ignorance with the show.
Yeah, I would give a pass on 6 just because it's sort of you're guessing the mental state of all those guys there's so many producers. So I'll just say 5 out of 6 ain't bad. But we can argue all those 5 points, no problem.
Lower Decks and
Picard creator, I forget what his name was, he actually said in an interview, like, you put stuff in there because you want to piss off certain parts of the fan base.
That's true as well. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, there's so many producers. I can't list. Like Discovery had, what was it? Discovery had like 20 producers or so. Picard had about 5 or 6. They were so like, why do you need so many people giving money and creative vision to something which should be pretty straightforward, a drama about an old man going through his retirement or what have you, and going on one last adventure or something like that? It's a mess. The whole show is a mess. Whereas, I guess you could say Lower Decks is kind of a attempt at being lighthearted, and in the process it ends up destroying the lore and the vision that Roddenberry created, or at least what was supposed to be something that was a follow-up to Discovery to make it more lighthearted, but it just kept ruining everything. Kept making things worse. Kept changing technology, the way that people behave. It just does not reflect what Star Trek was back in 2005 with Enterprise.
And even if it wasn't Roddenberry himself and it was the interaction between Roddenberry and other creators, it's still the point that what was the heart of Star Trek has been being changed. It was consistent. Even in DS9, where after Roddenberry had passed, and they still were able to capture that same heart, that same feel, that same vision, without doing what is being done in New Trek.
They're actively contradicting the messages.
All right, let's keep going.
Other recent shows. And before we get started, like I said before, I'm not really interested in creating drama or insulting anyone specifically. Hence why even in this video, I'm not going to target specific YouTubers. I'm going to take issue
because
with
that means you have to
messaging,
participate
but I
in
don't
specific
know
arguments.
these
But
people
hey,
personally,
that
and
require
I'm not
context.
here to attack them as human beings. Just critique what I see as problematic and, honestly, in my opinion, lazy.
Criticism is problematic. That's fantastic. Okay.
Talking points that really just frustrate the hell out of me. Number 1, the most recent Trek show, whatever it is, breaks canon. Honestly, this is the most facile.
Yes, because they constantly do this.
Creators of current Star Trek don't understand canon. They screwed up that holodecks didn't exist in the 23rd century. Or there's a 2-second reference to Section 31 in Lower Decks when Section 31 was clearly a clandestine organization by the time of the 24th century, and clearly people wouldn't know, even if we can't accept that it wasn't a clandestine organization in the 23rd century in Star Trek Discovery. Look, I get it.
So
using new canon to excuse new canon. It was Section 31 wasn't a secret in Star Trek Discovery, so it's not a problem if Mariner knows about it in Lower Decks.
There was a lot of words there that just ultimately results in a paradox.
Yeah, not only that, but you've got insignificant or somewhat insignificant canon being changed versus very, very significant canon being changed. She's not looking at the problem with an even view.
They could get away with this in Star Trek Into Darkness somewhat because it was a reboot, but you don't get to have that here because it's an active continuation of the continuity. And even then, because Star Trek 2009 is a reboot, it's still got lots of problems with it in terms of its continuity.
So here's Bogue in Super Chats. It's the Dan DiDio marketing method. I think that guy was in DC Comics. I'm trying to remember. If comic book fans are angry, they are talking about our comics. See how much money comics are making? Well, pick radio dramas, pick all sorts of other dying or dead media. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but that he does have a point that people are talking about it. And the thing is, online, this is all I hear, even on Twitter, that there's very, very few people who are saying how great the show is. You might get the super fan here and there, like Jessie Gender, but it's mostly people criticizing this thing. Is this really what we want? Is this actually entertaining? And then you see the various show numbers go down the next month. Same with Picard. The last 2 shows of the first season go down. I don't know what the numbers are for Discovery, but Lower Decks wasn't even on the charts after the second episode. So there's something not happening, at least on broadcast television, that either people are watching them online and we don't have the numbers for that, but people don't care for that as much as they used to. So.
Also, people are becoming a lot less disinterested with Lower Decks, even just like reacting to it or commenting it or watching people shit on it, because it's not changing. There's nothing new here. So what? Here's
a curious super chat. That's so Skaven. You guys just had Woman and can handle the face. They treat all that came before like a cheap hooker. And gave it the old Bill Cosby.
Did I have a stroke? I don't know what that means.
I can't grasp the grammar.
He said hate. Yeah, I think he put shit. I meant hate after. So you just hate women or women and can handle the face. Is that supposed to be can't?
Can't handle the face. They treat all that came before like a cheap hooker and gave it the old Bill Cosby. That's so Skaven 2020.
Yeah, that is really frame worthy, sir. I don't know what you just said there, but I think it was something.
Thank you for the 5 A's, though. We could really do with more A's.
Alrighty.
$5 worth of A.
My favorite is still Donkey Kong currency.
Well,
you're never going to convince
typically,
me.
Does that mean Australian dollars?
I think so.
What?
The 5
Donkey Kong currency. Oh.
No. The A
yeah,
sign
I think
5.
it is.
Yeah,
it's got to be Australian dollars.
We just interpret that as a Canadian way to finish a sentence. So that's totally fine. I just don't know what the sentence means.
You just hate women, eh?
Hey, I don't know. What am I gonna do?
Yeah, you just can't handle the face that. Also, you just can't. I'm going to say it this way: you just can't handle the face that they treat what came before like a cheap hooker, eh?
Yeah, I'll just give him the old Bill Cosby. That's just what I'm going to do.
Give it the old Bill Cosby, eh?
Oh dear. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about. I can't remember.
You know, when your car breaks down the side of the road, you get the AAAA.
Hey.
Okay. Did someone leave because of that pun? I want to imagine someone did because of the pun.
All right, let's stop.
You killed our friend.
Oh.
You killed Bad Boy Baser.
Yeah, well, he was at work, so he had to probably go back to his job.
The pun was so bad, it killed him.
Oh. All righty, let's get back to this.
Important to me is probably on a lesser level to some people, that you want your stories to be internally consistent when it comes to dates, historical facts, and figures. And if there are minor tweaks to that here and there, that bothers you. That's legitimate criticism. And honestly, like I said...
Wait. So she's actually validating point 1. Thank you, Jessie Gender. That's good. Good to contradict yourself, but thanks. We appreciate it.
I less, but it does bother me too. But really, what is more important to me is character consistency. I'd rather know that Kirk is a consistent character across his entire arc in the franchise.
Okay, all right,
okay,
that's fair.
That's also important, but it's the world is also important as well because the characters are part of the world.
That's like saying, you know what? I want Rey to be consistent. She has to be super powered all the time. Okay, and without understanding why that's a bad thing. Consistency is not always the same.
In a weird backwards way, I can accept the idea that it's good that a character is consistently written bad because at least they're being consistent, but that doesn't disregard the fact that they were still written bad in the first place.
That is like saying a person is constantly stabbing me in the back.
Events are, predicated on facts, and then you change those facts later. It undermines the plot. And it undermines characters, both. It's not just one or the other.
Yeah, it's it's like saying this writer is so bad he's consistently bad. It's like, that's true. I don't like him. but the Jessie Gender.
I love that Jessie Gender's defense for why Star Trek is so dark is because the modern day is darker than when the original Star Trek came out, ignoring the fact that the original Star Trek came out was like in the middle of the Vietnam War, I believe. Yeah.
60s.
We live in the darkest times, despite the fact that we are in an unprecedented time of peace.
All right, let's keep on going.
Or Spock is a character in his entire arc in the franchise, whether or not they get wrong the date of his birth, for example. But I understand that that's legitimate criticism. But to hang your entire criticism of the quality of work on its, oh my god, a hologram exists, so it's crap story, is just kind of childish.
What?
No. No one is saying the story is crap. They're saying, okay. No. People don't say the hologram isn't supposed to be there, therefore the story is crap. That is a continuity mistake, which is a part of the show. If you're actively contradicting what has came before, that's going to the show overall, but it's not specifically talking about the writing. And to say that someone is talking about the writing when they're talking about a continuity mistake is, I think, disingenuous.
For example, think of the hot bananas constantly pumping out of the holodeck. It's possible that could happen. Yeah, I'll give him that. But it's not possible that someone would just sit there and just start putzing around with the thing without turning it off first, or getting an engineer, or this or that.
Well, she's saying that these people are trying to put it towards therefore it's bad writing because they go against continuity in terms of writing the actual story elements and beats itself. But no, those are also shit. This is also a problem on top of the shit characters and shit story.
Disingenuous. Clearly, these writers who reference everything from Captain Pike to the Telosians to whatever this is from the Star Trek.
Yes, because all they're doing is referencing.
And
because
they may change some things to update the show for a modern TV aesthetic, or guess what? They may just get some things flat out wrong when it comes to the smaller details because they don't have a complete.
But it's not just smaller details
of a 50-year-old franchise, or to say that someone doesn't get Trek because they like modern Trek, or because they're a writer on the show who got something small wrong, which the FandomMenace does all the time, is horrific gatekeeping. Canon mistake.
Okay, wait. If they get lore wrong on the show, that is automatically 100% a bad, wrong thing. You do not want that, okay? If you want to call it gatekeeping, I don't care how you characterize it. That's bad.
It's upkeeping quality. And you know what? Small things, in terms of the overall factor, yes, small things are relatively small, but you need to. It's like you want to sand down a surface to make it as smooth as possible. Like you want to get all the little tiny bumps. But we're not just talking about small inconsistencies like a hologram. We are talking about huge inconsistencies like how the Vulcans are portrayed, how the Klingons are portrayed, how the Federation is portrayed. Like you have the Vulcans now saying things like violence brought respect, respect brought peace. And it's now known as the Vulcan hello. We're now talking about the Klingons, which are very inconsistent with what came before. That is not a small thing. And you're trying to act like the only criticism that the FandomMenace is apparently having is that they have a hologram when they shouldn't have a hologram in this time period.
There's one thing.
Not only that, but the Vulcan hello. If that was really a thing, you think that the Vulcans wouldn't have shared how to maintain or maintain peace with the Klingons? Like that would have been, text. That would have been something they taught in school. Much less, something that was brought up at spur of the moment.
I think it goes even deeper than that, because why would the Vulcans open fire? And if the Vulcans theoretically did open fire on Klingons, what are Klingons going to do? Are they going to A, fight back and start a war, or B, cower and run? Klingons are not cowards. If you fire at them, it's going to start a war. It's stupid to open fire on Klingons unprovoked.
And that's just like the general understanding of or behavior of the races. Let's look at the use of phasers and why they have them and how stupid people are when they get invaded and they don't use them. Boimler is what? Is cleaning graffiti off the deck?
With a phaser.
I was like, what's going on here? It's a weapon. It's not a tool. You could technically use it to do many things, but that's usually a spur of the moment, like you MacGyver something to do open a door or this or that. But you see everyone on the outer of the hull just cleaning the hull with a phaser. It's like this is not right. Something's wrong here.
It's stupid.
Hey, Glib, didn't see you there, buddy. I didn't even recognize that avatar. I was like, wait, who is that?
That's the best VTuber ever, which
Really?
I dedicate all my time and money to, obviously, wearing a cowboy hat.
Of course. That makes perfect sense. Of course, sir. Well, thanks for coming on. We're doing a 30-minute vid on Jessie Gender's attack on the FandomMenace, but not Star Wars. This is the Star Trek FandomMenace. So,
And she's
That
already
doesn't
being
even-
disingenuous.
But by the way, that doesn't even work because they thought the FandomMenace was a play on words of the Phantom Menace.
So it's
So
been.
why is
it's
it a
not
continuation
specifically
to Star Trek
Wars
now?
because these are the same YouTubers. Like, so for example, that Star Wars girl who does criticize the Star Wars very heavily also criticizes Star Trek. So therefore, it's the same YouTubers doing the exact same thing, and
Well,
therefore it's expanded to just mean geeks in general who are part of this group rather than just specifically Star Wars.
Okay.
I mean, it's all nerdy material, and all of the nerdy material is being remade as worse content for people that are woke. So it's all the same, and it's just that the FandomMenace refers to the fandom, and we menace these people because they're annoyed by our existence. Our existence is like this giant elephant in the corner while they're playing with their little toys. Like, yeah, and then Kirk and Picard kissed, and you're like, that's not Star Trek, and it's this giant elephant in the corner tooting his horn at him.
here is Mr. X. Change the show's name to the Gatekeepers? I don't know. That's
The Gamer Gatekeepers.
the Gamer. There we go. The Gamer Gators.
These are the voyages of the USS Smudcast.
Of the USS Gatekeep.
What a
continuing
role
mission.
to do.
5-year mission to destroy strange new people,
Yeah, but Glib, we're
to seek
already
out
on the
new life,
gatekeeping.
and
say-
destroy new civilizations.
So
To
Jessie
boldly
Gender
go and remove women where no women have gone before.
so Jessie Gender is already making the claim that the reason why people are criticizing, the whole thing is just saying that, okay, so these people criticize a hologram being in Star Trek Discovery, despite that they don't have that technology yet. This is a problem, but it's not quite as it doesn't impact the writing. Therefore, I don't really care. And then these people say that it does impact the writing. It's like, no, we're not saying it impacts the writing, but it does impact the show overall. And then she tries to say, well, this is gatekeeping because they're so concerned with all the tiny little details. Like, no, it's not all the tiny little details. It's big details, very big details that are often very quintessential to the story.
Did they explain why gatekeeping is a negative automatically?
Well, no, but they're saying gatekeeping in terms of trying to keep people out of the industry who don't know anything about Star Trek.
Yeah,
No,
that's
she
good.
ju-
Yeah, I would appreciate that
Yeah,
more.
she
Yeah.
just assumes it's a negative and just moved on.
Yeah, if you're a writer writing for a show, you should understand the world that show is taking part in. You don't need to be a fan, but you do need to understand it
Yeah.
in order to write for it.
See, jobs in the professional world have exams you go to school to do, and they say, "Oh, now you're a lawyer because you passed this exam. This is your bar. You've passed it. Fantastic." And that's how we get quality work out of people. So if we don't do that, we don't want to work with these people ever again for whatever problem we want it solved. So the same with creative work, whether you're writing or producing something, you have to have someone either with experience or who knows how to turn a profit out of whatever piece of entertainment they're putting together. So there's a formula for everything. You follow the formula. Not to say that everything is some engineering thing that you apply with mathematics, but there's a certain step you take to get to where you need to be a professional. And it's no different.
What would you say our roles would be if we were on if we had like our own enterprise ship?
Oh, I have no idea.
Captain Smud.
The Smud, yeah, the Smudcast.
Smud would be the captain.
Clearly.
What
Shiny,
voice?
you
What would you
forget-
be?
I
Voice is
don't know,
communications.
absolutely.
Oh yes. What would Glib be?
I'm number one.
Yeah, why'd you get
No,
to be
I am.
number
I want to be Worf.
one? You want to be weapons officer? Wait, weapons or
I
security?
have to be
officer?
Worf because Worf is the guy that always does blusterous stuff. Unless you're Worf.
Shiny,
You're
No,
Bashir.
Chinese weapons expert.
Okay,
Dr.
Glib,
Bashir.
Glib, you can be the security officer. I'll be tactical. How about that?
I don't care. I don't care. I'll be Captain Janeway if I have to.
You'll be the woman.
I'll be Wesley Crusher.
Remember in Enterprise there was that armory officer who, before they had proper weapons and this and that, he was just the guy with all the
Wait a minute.
guns.
Am I? Does that mean I'm a Hura?
Yes.
You can be a horror, but who's the communications officer? You could also be Counselor Troy.
I prefer
Voice is now the woman.
communications. You know
So
what?
it-
Yeah, fine.
it
I'll be the
works.
sexy black lady.
That would have been a fantastic role for Deanna Troi to be the communications
It depends.
officer.
It depends on what era we're looking at. I have a few Star Trek videos I'm going to put out. I watched The Cage.
Yep.
I watched The Cage, Man Trap, and Encounter at Farpoint yesterday to try and compare all of the pilots, which is going to be the next episode that I do. But if we were the original series, then voice would have to be Spock, right?
I would.
And then Smud would be, or Smud is Spock. 'Cause he's always calm.
He's very
He's-
logical.
He's very
So I'm
very
Kirk?
logical. Yeah. So I'll be Kirk because I'm always looking at my hands and overacting.
Looking at my hands.
You know, I can actually get behind that. Yeah, you can be Kirk.
I'll be Kirk because
You can probably do the voice. You can probably do the voice better a lot as well.
I know how to recite the Constitution whenever we land on a planet.
God, so we'll just be like in America. I couldn't even say that because one of us is Canadian, two of us are British. What would
I'll be
Liv
Dunn.
be?
I think we're more like Deep Space Nine, to be honest. Right?
Oh dear.
Because we're kind of on a busted space station known as YouTube. We got to deal with that. The bloody
So-
parties.
Who's LitDev? That's my question. I want to know who LitDev is.
LitDev is Odo.
So on Deep Space Nine, who are each of we?
You're Bashir.
Okay, I can get behind that. Yeah.
We got voice on the radio can be voice
not
is
seen
Dax.
Quark. You could be Quark.
I wanna be Quark.
I've not seen Deep Space Nine, so I don't know.
for acquisition.
Yeah. Why is voice always the one?
Because I'm making fun of him right now.
Why am I what now?
Dax is as a woman.
Yeah, okay. It's
Yeah,
fine.
but a very sexy old man inside. A very sexy worm I used to travel with because I'm Cisco right now.
It's
Technically,
fine. I
she's
mean,
transgender because she's had a symbiote that's had several lives before her, and
Well, that-
handful of some of them are men, some of them are women.
That
That's
makes
fine.
the worm a transgender, not Dax.
I mean, that makes sense because simultaneously I am a voice that lives inside a radio, so there's some symbiotic relationship going on anyway.
You could be EMH then from Voyager.
And chat can paint me as a sexy female, so this works out fantastically.
Someone please
Valentin
draw
Ward
a voice as a woman now. I want to see that.
I don't know. I think it makes sense that Smud is Picard. We're on the TNG. You could have Shiny be Riker. I will be. Oh, who's Data? I love Data, but I guess voice can be Data.
Sure.
And then what do you call it? I'll be Worf. There you go. And then LiteratureDevil can be Geordie.
Wouldn't he be Bones?
No, because LitDev's black.
Yeah.
Okay. Then he should be. Shit. I had a joke. for
he
this.
loves Worf, so I don't know. He should probably.
Oh, he should be Alexander, the kid in blackface.
Okay. Well then, good to know we've got our roles figured out. Here's That's So Skaven again. Audible gasp. All we want is a good story that follows what came before in a respectful way. In other news, the sky is blue, water is wet. Well,
I've got a question. Does that mean I need to practice my Riker maneuver?
yes.
Yes.
Get
You
it?
also need to practice getting a beard to improve your character and slightly.
The beard's always
gaining weight.
itchy. Oh no, I don't want to gain weight. No.
Yeah, you got to do lots
The
of.
Devil's Cue.
What's that crazy martial art? That blind martial art with the stick, or the the American Gladiator stick, whatever it was called. Some crazy martial. Anyway, we're
Yeah,
vying.
with the Chinese outfits that they're wearing.
Yeah,
the football gear.
I was like, what is that? Like, what the hell?
That's one of the worst. The first 2 seasons of TNG are bad. There's like 1 or 2 good episodes. Measure of a Man is in there, but the rest of them are all just like dated. The original series remakes or just dated in general.
Yeah, it's hard to stomach some of those. There are some good ones, I admit, but it's just like weird stuff. And the 3rd season, when it kind of like smooths itself out, all right, let's focus on what we're doing here. We've no longer had those recliner chairs on the bridge. We're sort of like, all right, we're more intelligent now.
And unlike TNG, I think DS9 didn't have any bad seasons. It got better for sure later on.
There's some iffy parts in the first season, I would say.
Yeah, but it's still good. I really enjoy that. I like going back to it. I don't like watching the TOS beginnings or TNG again.
At the worst, it's probably meh. But I would still say that, especially comparatively, the first season is very weak to where it gets to in the mid and late season.
I distinctly remember that Move Along Home episode.
Almarane, count to 4, Almarane, then 3 more, Almarane, you'll come with me, Almarane, you'll... Oh, no, fuck, I fucked it up!
Oh, God, that was just like, why did you do this, guys? Come on. The idea was there. They just, execution.
I remember the actor for Cisco absolutely hated that song because he can never get out of his head.
Well, for sure, yeah, that was a horrible episode. It was a big bet. It was kind of like playing a game of dice for virtual RPG gaming, where you take a turn and this is what happens. The challenge is too big or too like you draw a card, and now you encounter orcs and they're like +5 to humans. Like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? So this kind of mentality of game, and I don't know how it worked because everyone was in the game and the guys outside the game were just like waiting for stuff to happen. Like this.
Yeah. Well, is it all in real time? Because
I guess I don't know. It was just nothing happens outside. You're like, well, we wait. Like, do we chill out, have a drink?
we just stand out, just a little pause,
and then we find out everyone died. We're like, what? Everyone died? How? When? So weird stuff there, guys. Okay, let's get going. 5 minutes in. All right.
Mistakes may bother. That's totally okay and understandable. Some of them bother me too. Like I said, I don't like the fact that Section 31 seems to be an open secret in Star Trek Discovery Season 2, but that doesn't make Star Trek Discovery Season 2 a bad story on that thing alone.
Okay.
Yeah, but when you... Okay, so the thing is, yeah, one problem alone doesn't make everything bad, but it accumulates. You have lots of problems accumulating, and it makes it absolutely god-fucking terrible.
So the more you destroy lore, the more you destroy the original foundation that everything was sort of based on. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with changing or tweaking lore, updating it, that's fine. But when you do actual retcons or make things more or less than what they were supposed to be, then you have a problem. Take the Q continuum. Like, that would just mess everything up if you started playing with that. And only a good writer, I think Peter David, he's mediocre here and there. I think he's pretty good. He wrote Q Squared, a book, and he took a character from the original series called Trelane, who was pretty much a Q or a godlike character, and they treated Trelane as if he was like the son of the Q we know, and that's fine because they're still gods, but they sort of added this whole family dynamic. And if you think about that, it was actually done okay in the book, but if you see Voyager's attempt at that, and you see this father, mother, son, really, whoa, what are you doing? Q are not some weird family. They're not some weird like mother figure. They're gods. Is that really how gods would operate? in some sort of bizarre. Oh, I need Captain
Yeah,
Kathy
and
to.
he wants to mate with Janeway.
Yeah, this is bizarre. Like it's like, what is going on? Like this is stupid.
In the show's defense, they try to explain it, just not very well at all.
And then there's this other female Q, and she's jealous, and she's laughing. It's like, okay, this is just no.
I'm not a big fan of the Q episodes.
I like the one with the guy who wanted to kill himself. I like that one because it actually expressed
That was good.
Yeah, as it talked about the continuum and showed him in different contexts and all these little details that we never got to know, which was interesting. And that was as far, the world building was far as it needed to go. It didn't have to go into the way things work and the way people operate and the way the Q are. It's just like, no. Just give the idea of the universe and let it go. And that was it. That was great. It was
Prophets
the other
better
crap.
than
That just,
the continuum. The prophets, they didn't interfere as much. They're more like Cthulhu, kind of beyond understanding, and therefore they wouldn't have as direct impact on events the way Q could, where it opened up a lot of, why are we doing this when we could just ask Q? I mean,
yeah, there's lots of episodes like the Nagilum episode. Was it called Skin of Evil? I can't recall. Where it's just this godlike character, and the Picard's like, okay, we got to blow up the ship, and he's like, what? Like that. The whole episode was just this guy wanting to know what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be human? And we never hear, I'll see you again, Picard. And it just goes away, and then we never hear this guy ever again. So there's lots of episodes where there's godlike characters who have almost omniscient power, and they learn their lesson and they go away. It's like, oh, that was weird.
There's kind of an ironic, and I wouldn't even call it ironic, but I've seen a trend in Roddenberry's writing and what he's trying to go for. There, in both the Cage and the Man Trap, the Enterprise and its crew, they meet somebody that is more powerful than them, that has the power of illusion over them, and they have to use their ration and their reason to overcome that entity. And they have to justify it. In the Cage, Captain Pike uses brutality and the evil thoughts of man to overcome. It's the primitiveness of man that saves him and that gives him the power to have a leverage. Whereas in Encounter at Farpoint, it's about how civilized Picard is, because Q is accusing humans of being a savage race. So it's very common in Star Trek for the structural beginning of the series to be about how there's a greater technological, mystical, some sort of power that the rational scientific exploration vehicle or vessel, Enterprise and its crew, have to figure out how to contest.
Yeah.
That to me is the story of how Gene sets up Star Trek.
Which is ironic because in a similar scenario where they have Wesley Crusher save the day, one of 9 times in the whole show, it's with these godlike characters. And one of them, they want Wesley and a bunch of kids to procreate, and Wesley is able to trick. Oh
yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, he's able to trick and get in there and scan them and give the data back to his mom, and they figure out what's wrong. And he's smart enough to do all this stuff. It's like, oh, it's Wesley again, saving the day. So
they did. They redid that episode, but they did it with the vessels taken over by Ferengi, and that's after Picard and some of the crew get caught in some transporter accident that makes them young again. And then it's the young kids on the play computer with command access that save the day. But it doesn't have Wesley Crusher, and therefore it's a much better episode.
Anyway, we could talk about all the crazy gods in Star Trek. There's quite a lot. Seems to be a common theme in Star Trek.
Nagila, right?
Nagila, yeah.
We cannot allow you to do that.
We'll blow up the ship in 20 minutes. Like, okay. What? There was that guy who had he destroyed the entire race of some invading species, and then he invented this house with his wife, who was all an illusion. Because his wife died, so he got angry. It's like all these really super powerful beings. And it's just tragic, where it's like, makes you think, and then they go away. We never see them again. Anyway, let's keep going.
Oh, and also, Trek has never been internally consistent. You want to say breaking canon makes something bad? Well, that must mean that you hate the movie Star Trek First Contact, which clearly shows that Zefram Cochrane is from Earth, when we all know from his appearance back in the original series that Cochrane is actually from Alpha Centauri. Number 2, Mary.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
I know a piece of lore from the old show. It's different than the movie. Oh, you're amazing. Thank you, Jessie Gender.
okay, so what you've
Contact
done,
isn't
Jessie
good.
Gender, is that you have made a straw man and then said you are wrong for thinking that straw man. When in actuality, no. The problem is that okay, with the entire film, that is one small problem that doesn't like. These problems add up. You're trying to compare a small hole in a bowl to a sieve that is actively losing everything.
Here's the thing. If the backstory of this character was actually dependent on the plot of the film and it was changed simply so the plot of the film could work, then it would be an even greater issue. So this straw man could be applicable to being a real life big issue to whatever episode or film anyway.
But the thing,
No
she
one
said
that isn't a problem.
She
No
said
one
that's
said that.
yeah.
Sorry, no.
No, I agree. No one said it wasn't a problem, but what you?
Yeah, but it could. My
Look,
point is,
Jessie Gender,
it could be a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Like if a character was from X in like the original show, and then the movie arbitrarily changed that, so he's actually from a different place. But they did that purely because the film hinges on that being a plot point. Then that's a small detail that actually has a big impact.
Jessie Gender is saying, Jessie Gender is saying, well, the Fandom Menace says that Lower Decks and Star Trek Discovery is wrong because they have this continuity mistake. Well, I care more about the writing, and then points to another continuity mistake and says, well, this is exactly the same. It's like, no, it's not the same at all, because that's not what people are saying. When people discuss the writing of these shows, they're not talking about the continuity mistakes as much. Because the continuity mistakes that you are talking about add up because there are so many of them.
I think we can understand a movie.
Oh man, you were talking so much about nonsense. I was trying to get in a point. First Contact is not logical in general. It's kind of a retcon of the entire series. It's an add-on when Data jumps from the top of the missile silo and lands and takes like 40 bullets. That's a complete anathema to his character. He's not supposed to be able to get shot at like a Terminator and survive. He's actually more fragile than that. Guns can defeat him. So if we want to go tit for tat about who has the canon correct or whatever, you're not going to win because they've changed a lot of different canon elements. For example, if you want to see something inconsistent in Star Trek, just tell me what rank. What's his name? Fuck. All I can remember is his real name. Cole Meany. What's his name? The engineer. Can't remember. O'Brien. O'Brien's rank changes. In the first episode, he's wearing a command uniform. He's got a pip, and then he changes to be a transport officer because they wanted to keep the guy in the show, but they didn't know exactly where to place him. Geordi took over the engine room. He wasn't the original engineer. They made a lot of changes. Now, the changes are all better and improve the thing. If you can find something that was changed in The Next Generation from Season 2 to Season 3 that was worse, love to hear it. But First Contact, it's just there to make it so that you could have a stupid Borg story and then the origin story at the same time. The stories don't go together. Because why would the Borg go back in time if they had a time-traveling device to a time and place when the Federation existed? Wouldn't you go back further than that? Wouldn't you just assimilate all the way in the past, like the year 300 BC or something like that?
Yeah, time travel.
40,000
Don't
BC.
touch it.
Time travel is a finicky thing. But anyway, this point is invalidated because even if First Contact, and we're all just assholes for not knowing that Zephyr Cochrane is actually from Alpha Centauri, it's like there's so many other details there that if you want to operate on that level, you're missing. So this idea that the canon, doesn't matter or something based on that, it's not an argument because you're going to move on. This person's going to move on before that point is actually settled in. But at least we have a rebuttal for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sue. Yep, that's definitely applied to one Beckett Mariner in Star Trek Lower Decks. I won't get into the discussion of what Mary Sue's are or anything like that, but you can check that out up here.
No,
I've
you
done a
really should
video
if this
on
is
Mary
going to be
Sue's,
an
which is
argument that
super
hinges on the
contentious for a
definition
lot
of what
reasons, but
Mary
I
Sue
think
is.
I do explain what Mary Sue is basically there and the problems that I have with it being applied to female characters, though not a problem with it on its own merits. But anyways, Beckett Mariner on Lower Deck, she's a female character who solves all the problem, clearly knows everything, and is quote-unquote perfect in every way. Except the fact that half the problems these characters have gotten into in these episodes are her fault explicitly.
And what consequences come from it?
The first episode, no. The second episode, yeah, kind of, but nothing comes of that, and she's not punished at all. Third episode, what's third episode again? It was the meh one.
Yeah, that's the one with the spears, I think.
Sorry, what would you say, Smud?
The spears, they have that crazy fight between the giant, and they give him a sword, and he stabs Mariner. And
still then not the problems she's causing. Episode 4, I think it is, as well. The one before that one is that even a problem caused by her? No. Yeah, so she's not causing the problem. She's actively solving them.
And things work out for her, and the show endorses her point of view.
She assaults a fellow Federation officer, and then nothing comes of that.
Well, the idea was they were using reverse psychology, and she got promoted, and or what's his name, Bornemer was trying to do the same philosophy, and I guess he didn't do too well, but they ended up naming a technique after him, like to go back to what she recommended, which was to be lax here and there, even though he's it was specifically to ignore all rules, ignore all restrictions, just break all the rules. Right. So he's always wrong, she's always right with everything. That's the whole premise that I've seen of every episode, is that he's always getting it wrong, screwing up, even though he's following.
We're not even talking about gender politics. We're talking about horrible writing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if she was.
But you always do that. Sometimes it is gender politics and it's retarded, and you just have to admit that.
Well, no, but
yes, absolutely. They make the man, the guy with the nuts, the testosterone guy thing, as the joke, the butt of the joke every time. It's definitely gendered humor. I mean, imagine if people always do this. Let's flip it around. This guy's always right and Mariner's always wrong. You would say it's bad writing, and I'd agree. And it'd also be gendered coding. It'd be like, hey, look, the girl's always wrong. Proper Star Trek would be you expose both of their individual weaknesses and they help each other. That's real Star Trek.
Even at the end of the day, if you're talking purely in terms of the writing of the story, the problem within the writing, the motivation may be political, but the end outcome is the actual problems itself in the writing. Is that if you write a character that's always right and never kind of has any consequences, that's a writing problem that is very it's very damaging to the quality of the story.
It's also damaging to the relations of people to put down a gender the entire story because you have an ideological motivation to do so. That's stupid. That's sexism.
Actually quote one of my commenters because they actually said it really well, so shout out to Finger for this. For the people in the back, a Mary Sue isn't a capable character. They're a capable character who solves every conflict without ever creating conflict themselves. While Mariner's
that's not the way I would describe it.
Where is that definition? I thought
that they weren't going to explain what a Mary Sue was.
Well, I've never heard a Mary Sue is someone who doesn't create conflict themselves. What do you mean?
No, a Mary Sue is a character which the world actively just bends to them. Like the rules of the world, the laws and everything, the way it works, it all bends for their outcome. And that's the simplest way I can think of putting it. And even here, the whole idea that Mariner isn't creating the problems. No. Also, she is creating the problems. No, she isn't creating the problems. In a lot of these episodes, she's not. In fact, she's actively just solving them.
Well, she not
Or
only,
she creates the problem, but then ends up solving
Yeah.
the problem so well, she's better off than when she started.
yeah, it's like the whole shuttlecraft incident with that mission that Boimler was going to take. She ends up causing this issue with the ambassador for the Klingon Empire, or whatever, and they get this
Or
huge
even
crazy.
then, he does that himself. He's the one that gets drunk, and he's the one that flies the shuttle away. It's kind of a little bit her fault, but it's mostly the Klingons, I'd say.
Solves conflicts in this episode or other episodes. She herself was the cause of most of it. Her procedural incompetence leads directly to
Okay, there is no procedural incompetence from her. There's none. She knows what's right. She doesn't do it, and she chooses a superior method, which breaks the rules.
That's what a Mary Sue does.
She
the
knows
central
better
conflict of
than
the episode, which
show.
itself
She knows better than the show, or than Starfleet rather,
Yeah,
and the show endorses that.
and she's extremely experienced. And only what is she, like 21 or something?
Yeah, she's like at most mid-20s in the show. They actually mentioned that she is the exact same age as Boimler, but yeah, she's graduated Starfleet, gained the rank to apparently a bridge officer, or at least some kind of high-ranking officer. She then got kicked out of Starfleet, and then got back into Starfleet. She's been on something like countless planets. She has a Black Ops background. She's served with one of the most decorated Klingon officers ever, and she has a father who's an admiral and a mother who's a captain. She's incredibly experienced for her age, which seems impossible. Because how the hell has she got a Black Ops background and been to all these ranks when Boimler has barely been a year out of the academy and they're the same age?
And Boimler is like to the letter doing everything right. Like he's very strict. So what was going on that she was able to rise up in the or whatever, get to whatever station she's in now, and then some to get demoted?
leads to Boimler's breakdown. If anything, this makes her a Rick, referencing Rick and Morty, an extremely competent character with unresolved flaws that lead them to constantly create problems as they solve others.
What
That being
are
said, there
her
are definitely
flaws?
criticisms to be made about a character like that, but I think it all depends on where they go with her. Personally, I think that the show is building to a season arc with her, and we won't see her flaws actually addressed until then. But in any case, if
Okay,
So
so
she
we're
doesn't
not
have any flaws.
doing an arc yet, but I expect to see one. It's like that's
She admitted
Often-
there's no art. There's nothing to the character that is flawed.
But often, even in Rick and Morty, it's Rick's often being portrayed as wrong. Like he might be extremely intelligent, but like the point of view character, the character which was seeing things morally from, is Morty.
He puts Morty
both
in
suck.
mortal danger to go get him some drugs. That's not something a moral character does. That's not something a good character does.
Well, the show isn't moral. The show is a farce. So
And this show
Piece of
is
shit.
actively trying to portray Mariner is that she does have the right morals, and it's also trying to it's a I'm confused on if Boimler is supposed to be the point of view character, because it seems like they want to go that way, but at the exact same time, it's like they're saying that everything the point of view character does and believes in is wrong.
yeah, because they're a bunch of fucking losers making the show, and that's why it's a failure.
It
it's a
feels
bunch
like
of
the
people. It's a bunch of people who have absolutely no spine, being like what they're probably beta males, soy boys that are told by all the women in their life what to do and how to think and how to feel, and they can only rebel in the fictional world,
Actually,
like
I'll
a
explain
Steve Shives situation.
I'll explain about it. It feels like Marinus or Boimler is supposed to be the point of view character, while Mariner is the main character, and it's a weird disconnect.
Because they're fucking terrible people making this shit.
here's
Terrible writing.
Here's Joe Crazy. Don't worry, guys. The arc is coming. Now, this is interesting. I don't recall any specific arcs, character arcs, rather, in Star Trek. I remember storyline arcs that go on for several episodes. So I don't think we're ever going to see a plot coincide with a character arc. It doesn't really seem like a Star Trek
Here's the thing,
to do.
every single episode where they give Mariner a win means less and less opportunities for a character arc to happen, because a character arc implies that she has something to get over, a flaw or a struggle. And every win each episode gives her that are stacking up, there's less opportunity for that.
there's also we're in episode 5 right now. Well, the next episode could be episode 6. We're halfway through the show, and there is nothing that even goes close to a character arc. The closest we get to character building is the relationship between her and her mother. But even then, that is very stupid because out of nowhere they try and invent that her mother's too coddling. But that's not even what her mother was doing this entire time during the show. Her mother was actively trying to get her thrown off the ship. That's not coddling.
Makes her a Mary Sue, then Rick is one too. I 100% agree.
Okay, we often make the joke that Rick is pretty much Mariner, but there's a lot more to Mariner than just being a Rick character. She's always right. She always solves the problems, even if she creates them. In fact, she's so good, she actually has to lie to be less of a Mary Sue in that episode 2 to make Boimer feel better. So
she has to. She's more of a Mary Sue to try and make herself look less like a Mary Sue.
Yeah,
she has no enemies or personal vendettas against anyone.
Everyone owes her a favor. She can just pull. It's not even established that someone owes her a favor. She'll just pull a favor out of her ass.
Yeah, she knows
Out of
everyone.
nowhere.
She's been everywhere.
That bitch don't know nothing. She just gave everything handed her. You know what I mean? Cuh?
So yeah, it's very similar to Rick. Now, I haven't seen Rick and Morty, but I'm assuming Rick does some pretty wild stuff as well.
Yeah,
Check it out, Morty. Oh, I did some shit that's terrible for you. You're gonna love it. What?
The way
I don't love it. Just be more like Boimler, your fucking brother.
I think it's very obvious they wanted Mariner to be Rick, and they wanted Boimler to be Morty, but they fucked it up so much that they wanted it to be that way, but they completely screwed it up.
Well, Rick's biggest flaw is that throughout the show he has a god complex that always gets challenged when it turns out there's a problem that can't be solved with his technology, and he actually has to be emotionally invested into another character, and that's normally his struggle, whether it be with Beth or with Morty or with close friends. I don't think Mariner's came across such a struggle yet.
You guys just don't like women. You don't like dark-skinned people. Anything to prevent us from realizing that the show is fucking terrible.
I think we've all explained this before in our reactions on my video. If you want to see my channel, link below.
Shameful plug.
Well, I'm not lying. We do explain all of this in our reactions.
Here's Taker610. Glib's impersonations are going unappreciated. I think we pretty much appreciate them. We know him very well. He does a very good job.
As they should be.
Is a great way to discuss the Mary Sue character. Couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you, Finger, and I hope you don't mind that I quoted you in this video, but Finger, thank you. That was a great explanation. Just to oversimplify, I don't think the term Mary Sue is an inherently sexist idea, just that it's typically over-applied to women in fiction, who are often overly scrutinized for being competent or hyper-competent, as is the case with some characters like Michael Burnham. It's not like there haven't been other characters.
It's because women are usually incompetent.
Got him! Get fucked!
It's because of the politics often of the writers making these shows that they often poorly write women just to make them absolutely amazing, because they don't seem to understand. They seem to think that in order to make a strong female, a strong character, you have to make them physically strong and the most capable. So as long as they make them really capable, then they're a strong female character. Where
women,
they have
Go on. I interrupted you. Keep going.
No, I think I'm finished anyway.
I was going to say that women in media, especially in today's civilization, have all been taught that they have some sort of like Napoleon complex, that they have to be as good or better than men at whatever men do, which is
I would say it's more like a victim complex.
Yeah, sure, yeah, but reduced down to the idea that men and women are equal and do the same thing. Their life should be structured the same way. And in Star Trek, the cool thing is that people are allowed to do that. Right, you can have exceptional people, no matter what or where they come from, who they are, all that kind of stuff. Now, that's not the same thing as writing the story in reality to adjust for the fact that people want to see power crawl in Star Trek. We want to know that there is a limit to phasers. There is a limit to the intelligence of a character. Data can't just solve everything because he's a computer brain. The computer can't just solve everything. The holodeck can't just beam anything. Replicators can't replicate everything. You can't just warp speed to the end of the galaxy immediately. Things take time, and there's a realistic element of it. What does Rick and Morty not have? Any of that realism. So combining these two kinds of aspects together, and then adding in this social justice character that's there to be hyper competent and overcompensate for all of these years that women feel like they're being put down, and it combines this horrible product that, you know, you can't take it seriously if you don't believe in every single one of these things. And it's funny that she brings up Michael Burnham, because Michael Burnham is also a Mary Sue, because Michael Burnham comes in. And it turns out that, wow, Michael is actually the stepsister to Spock. It's like, wait, they're related. Why are they related? Why did you make your main character this Vulcan who can't fucking emote? Or did you retcon it because you hired an actress that can't emote because you wanted a dark-skinned person that was a female to play the role instead of the best character to play the role? They do that a lot. I think it's really funny that they choose to go with this idea that they need to compensate for women's feelings, for the feeling of people that are not white for some reason, to make a content that will make them feel uplifted at the cost of any kind of logic or reason in the story for the rest of the audience that does not care about that at one bit.
To expand on what you talked about earlier, I actually think it's more that they think being equal means being the same. And in actuality, no. Just being equal isn't the same because not every person is the same.
I think you're as good as me. You're not even close. I'm at the top of the mountain, and I'm only halfway up.
In order to be equal, the audience has to be 50-50 in absolutely everything. In order to be equal, in specifically male-dominated fields, I think it's more like... So, like, an example of, if something is majority male, then it's a problem. If it's majority female, it's fine. But more on lines of that, they think that in order to be the same, they have to make women exactly like with female action stars, almost exactly like male action stars. And it's at that point you may as well just have a male character, because men and women are different, and you're trying to do that with. It's fine when.
Oh my god! How can you say that? How can you say that men and women have physiological differences and then thus have different evolutionary contexts that they exist
when you have one or two more masculine female characters, that's fine, but that's not every single woman in the world. So it becomes very hard to believe, especially when you're combining with all the things that you're doing to these characters in terms of when you're pushing them to do absolutely the best in the story ever. They're all so amazing. They're all doing all these things, and purely because they're doing all these things and they're amazing, and on top of that, they are a certain gender or a certain race, you're touting it as amazing. When, no, that's terrible writing. If you want to have a black woman, fine. Write her well. That's all we ask. We had Cisco. Cisco was written amazingly.
Guys, the population is stupid. People would never accept somebody of another race. Humanity is stupid. We're debased. Also, we're making a Star Trek series. The series that has 1,000 episodes that's all about how humanity works together in the stars. And it's hugely popular with generations of fans who also have the same idea for a positive future where different cultures that all have the same original species that they evolved from can get along. Yeah. Let's try and inject this current day tension that only exists inside the mind of people who feel oppressed because they're incompetent and can't identify what's actually causing them to be negative and have a terrible time. They're going to take it all out on us by destroying our utopian vision with their dystopian context.
One of the most amazing comments I think I've had is when I've tried to say that it's not race or gender orientated, because I'm fine with a female captain, I'm fine with Janeway, I'm fine with Cisco, so why would I have a problem if they're here? It says, because Janeway's white and Cisco's black, Cisco's man. It's like, wait, what? So
Janeway's white and Cisco's man.
But if I'm fine with these parts individually, why am I suddenly having a problem if they're together? So I'm fine with Janeway, so I'm not sexist. I'm fine with Cisco, so I'm not racist. But you put them together, all of a sudden I'm racist, sexist.
It's just gaslighting. They're just trying to put the idea out there that you're this or that. I've seen it all the time. You watch the people that are on the street with the Antifa protests and that. What happens is, if somebody is disagreeing with their thing, they call them a Nazi or they call them a fascist, and they try and get everybody else to pounce on them. It's cancel culture in real time, and this is the same thing. If you're not part of this agenda that they have of the progressive stack and intersectionality and all that stuff, then you must be evil. You can't have your own individual opinion.
Even then, if your example, LitDev is Hispanic, that Star Wars girl is obviously a girl, and so is people like, I don't know, Mecha Random, or I can't even, just some guy is black as well.
You can't believe it. All these white people, all these white males, people
which are from different races. It's not all just men, but yet when they do speak up, they've either got internalized racism or the internalized misogyny, or they're not this and they're not that. And it's so ironic, especially when it's coming from white people, or often white men.
It doesn't matter. None of this matters. This is all fucking horse shit.
We are 7 minutes in, guys. Let's keep on going, okay?
As Michael Burnham. It's not as if Michael Burnham didn't literally train as a Vulcan with Sarek, the same guy who raised Spock, who is of equivalent competency as Michael Burnham. And
wow!
No. They actually have her be better than Spock.
Trained with Sarek. Like, how do we know that? Oh, because it's a reference character from the Legacy series, and so to increase the acceptability of this character, we have to associate her with the Legacy character. Except, just like in this shot, she sucks as her own character. That's the funniest thing. They keep propping these characters up with Legacy material. That's the Mary Sue playbook, where a character comes in and they know somebody. Oh, hey, I'm a new android. I was designed by Noonien Singh. I'm the third or the fourth or whatever data combination. And you're like, wait a minute, no, that never happened. It's like, oh, what do you love canon so much you don't want to see a black Data? It's like, whoa, how far have we gotten here? It's all the same shit. It's all the same agenda. We need to put in this character that doesn't fit. We have to bolster her with Legacy content, and you're gonna like it. And if you don't, you're a bigot. I've seen it play over and over again. Star Trek, Star Wars, anything, Battlestar Galactica. It could be literally anything. There's a version of this somewhere, because there's some woke person that thinks that they're going to appeal to something and get some sort of virtue signaling points out of it. It's basically a time-old story at this point.
You can tell. Theoretically, you can put Michael Burnham as the stepbrother to Spock. You could do that. But it's a very much an uphill. No. It's an uphill battle. It's something which is going to be. It would be incredibly hard to pull off, just because of how established these characters are already.
It doesn't make any sense to add in characters that, like, if you establish a character, and then suddenly, fucking 40 years later, somebody comes out and says, "Oh yeah, they had a stepbrother." I'd be like, "No, they don't. No, they don't." Because that's like if somebody I knew for an entire life, then somebody came out and said, "Oh yeah, I'm the stepbrother. You didn't know me for 30 to 50 years or whatever." I'd be like, "No, I don't know you, and I don't believe you." Because why would that be? Why wouldn't we have interacted before? There's all sorts of. This is the primary reason why you don't want to retcon things, because it changes things that people experienced in the past. It's an altering of their memory. And that's what these things are. They're debasing our memory by giving us these super-powered, shitty characters.
Hate to interrupt. I'm going to go to bed because I'm feeling kind of sleepy. You guys got this, so I will chat to you all later.
Alrighty.
All right, boys.
Right.
Talk to you later.
Take care, best chat. Just a little update. I've made a start on part 2 of the Rise of Skywalker video, but don't expect any news on that to happen anytime soon. I've literally just started doing the video editing. So ideally start of next year, based on my current progress.
Right.
Mhm.
Already.
But yeah, I bid you adieu. Goodbye, bitch.
Finally, that clank is gone.
See you, boys. All right, let's keep on going, guys. Lots to cover.
Sarah clearly would be the type of parent who would demand you practice your instruments 12 times a day before forcing you to do science homework for the rest of the evening. God, no wonder Spock has a thing against Sarek. Number 3, belittling men. Oh, yep, here we go with this one. Every Trek show today is trying to show men as beta cucks, with women always showing them up. Like,
You're a beta cuck. Just for the record.
Apparently, Captain Pike on Discovery somehow being shown up by Michael Burnham all the time. I mean, sure, Michael Burnham is the main character of the show, so she gets to be the problem solver a lot of the time.
Not necessarily. You don't have to do that with her. And yes, there are some times where she's not perfect, but she solves pretty much all the main problems either out of the gate or like she's the only one who solves the spore drive. Like she's not even the main scientist on the ship.
The problem is that not that she is the solving the problems, it's how she's solving the problems and how the writer goes around trying to solve these problems at the character. It's incredibly lazy writing. Just because they arbitrarily want her to do everything.
Every character around her is less intelligent, less capable in the scene with her. People literally tell her, you are the smartest Starfleet officer I have ever seen. You're smarter than every Vulcan. It's just absurd how outrageously better she is than everyone around her.
But Captain Pike literally is the captain of the ship, and he does a great job. In faat, most fans agree that Captain Pike is a great character.
Because he's charismatic.
He actively calls out Burnham and several other officers when they go over the line, and he's just a wonderful dude with great...
When? I mean, the main character of the show isn't the one that usually solves the problems in Star Trek. Picard doesn't solve all the problems. Cisco doesn't solve all the problems. Janeway doesn't solve all the problems. That's the whole point of them ensemble cast working together. Thank you again for adding more evidence that this character is basically the center of everything and the most important character. Also, this was about belittling men, not about if she's a Mary Sue or not. So this person can't really fucking focus, and is just doing the delusional thing that most people do, where they do a deflect and project.
Can't focus on a scripted video. I can understand.
I doubt it's scripted.
No, I think it is scripted.
I think it's just that there's bullet boards on the wall, like there's points. And then you go, oh yeah, this point, and then they go off on a tangent.
I honestly think it is scripted, and they didn't think very well.
No.
I've read essays which are just absolutely horrible, and they've thought them out and planned it for days, and it's like you're not focusing, you're jumping around and yada yada.
It's a lot more easier to stay on focus and stay on track when you've actually when you actually write a script which you're going over. Because you have much more control and time to think.
I think we all know that it's a good idea to write a script. I think we all get that, Shiny. You don't have to say that.
No, but I'm just saying that it's... I think it's difficult at some point to actually fuck up when you... or at least not fuck up, but in terms of to go off topic when you're actively writing beforehand.
It also depends how critical are of your own ideas. So, yeah, how many times did they...
Sorry. She has many editing errors and issues with her production. Her list order had nothing to do with her the order she's talking in, when that could be solved in editing, even if it wasn't how you produced it. Like you said, going off script, she could have edited that part out. She could have, re-recorded it.
Ideas a lot and pushes back against different ideas. But they also apply this belittling men criticism to lower decks. Yes, Ensign Boimler, one of the main characters, is clearly second fiddle to Mariner's clear competence, and this is some sort of anti-masculine agenda. It's the same tired argument that's been used against feminism for decades, the disingenuous argument that it's all about hating on men. Let's not talk about the competent men on lower decks like Rutherford, who clearly knows his stuff so much that he's able to take on a group of Borg by himself, or run half of the engineering department, or forget the fact that Boimler's whole character arc revolves
but even
he
is inconsistent.
Humbled, so it makes sense that he gets shown up from time to time, or the myriad other.
But why does he need to be? He's not a strong character either. But why does he need to be humbled? He's not a character which needs to be humbled because he's a character which is actively one of the lowest people on the ship. He's doing everything right, and you're trying to portray him as doing something wrong.
or the myriad other strong male characters throughout modern Trek. Nah, it's all about
Not a
hating
strong
how
male
men can't
character.
ever show men in a compromising permission and like show women actually showing them up at any point. That would be so horrible and so emasculating for men. It's just.
Can you stop being such a little bitch about this shit? Like, nobody's gonna say that. You're not gonna emasculate men through a TV show. You're just gonna piss them off. We're just pissed off. We just don't like the fact that you disrespect us while pretending that you're a victim. That's the number one thing that people hate. We don't like it when people go, men are stupid, men are bad, and then you go, no, they're not, and you go, oh, you're harassing me, blah, 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 blah. Stop, run away to daddy, motherfucker.
Okay, it's not the fact that you are humiliating and masking.
It is that fact.
No,
I hate that shit.
No. Let me explain. It's not the fact you're doing it. It's that you're only doing it to men.
Well,
So
why is that acceptable?
But you don't ever do it to women. You don't ever do it to like characters like Mariner. You don't do it to what's her name, Michael Burnham. So why is it fine to only do it to men, but you're never ever allowed to do it to a woman? God forbid you ever make a woman humiliated in a show.
Yeah, when in New Trek has a woman being humiliated or humbled? I don't think it's happened once.
I'm honestly trying to think of it, because even in 2009, you just have. I don't know if it's quite as political or not, but what's her name? Uhura. Uhura is she's a cadet, and then she all of a sudden she is just a bridge officer for no reason, and the guy is actually supposed to be the comm officer is just thrown off the bridge, like that. I think it's more just poor writing than politics, but still. It's the fact that you're only doing it to men, and that you can never ever do it to a woman. That's the problem.
Why is it okay to do it to men?
Well, no, but to these people they consider it.
No, I'm asking you. Why is it okay to do it to men?
Because of their political bias.
Well, that's my contention. That's the problem. The problem is that they have it out for men. Straight up. They have it out for. I don't know why you're saying no. They do. What is it? What am I saying that's wrong?
I'm stopping you to correct.
To be retarded.
No, I'm stopping to say no. It's not the fact that they're doing it to men. It's that they're only doing it to men.
Okay, so why is it okay to do it to men?
Well, because you can humiliate characters.
I didn't say characters. I said men.
No, because you can have male characters. You can humiliate anyone.
I understand you can have male characters, but my contention was not male characters. I didn't say that it's okay. I didn't have a problem with it being male characters. I said men. As in this panel of people.
Okay, so now it's becoming semantics, because when I'm saying male characters are men, I'm using it as a term to say not like.
I understand what you're saying. You're saying that in a situation, in a context for a story, it's okay to emasculate characters. They don't have to be gendered to make these separate statements separately. That's the point of the language that I'm using here, and I'm sorry that is upsetting the people. But what I'm trying to explain is that why is it okay to emasculate men as a stance, as a general, and it's not okay to be sexist? In their world, their own material doesn't make any sense. To us, we don't even have this problem. We look at them as characters. We don't look at them as men across the board, because men in fiction represent men in real life all the time. They can't separate fiction from reality, from fact. They consider fiction to be an aspect of propagandizing and social and cultural change. It is a tool to be used. Therefore, the emasculation of men equates to the emasculation of men from the screen to the actual reality. And my question is to them, why is it okay to emasculate men?
And we see
what is it about men that makes it that it's okay to emasculate one group and then the other? It just sounds like a vengeance scheme. Like, oh, these women have never had this opportunity in life, so we have to go and overcompensate, which is what I was saying before. They have it out to destroy something that we were a part of building that was already neutral. The biggest offense to the Star Trek community and to film and cinema and to culture and to history is that Star Trek is being exploited in this way, because Star Trek was never at any point any kind of alt-right or any of this junk. It was always a progressive thing. It was always about equality. It was always about all people together. But now it's okay to make Boimler the butt of the joke, to have an anti-male agenda.
It's the same with
because Captain Pike can't stay there. Captain Pike has to be replaced.
Captain
'Cause he
Pike
gets
is
hit.
actually humiliated and emasculated at points.
And what about the previous captain?
And it's always specifically by women as well.
What about Picard? They actually kill Picard and recreate him as an old man. They killed Picard in the Picard show. There isn't a single Star Trek new Trek piece of material that doesn't emasculate men in the story. Who is the least emasculated men in the new Star Trek stories? And why is it that Bajoran guy that LiteratureDevil likes?
He's pretty much a non-character. He's just big, tough man who wants to blow stuff up.
He's a walking stereotype.
And I'm sure that they're going to do this thing where they'll have an episode where they go, oh, I know you're a big, strong man, but inside you're just a soft little baby. And it's like, it's true. I just never wanted to tell people about my feelings. Like we're all 7 years old and watching Nickelodeon.
Pretty much the same attitude of the Jack character on the bridge, the commander. He's the big, strong guy who's pretty much a Riker character. So, but we see the same issue with Rutherford. Like he's a was it Tandy or he's like the male version of Tandy, but he has to then change his entire career just because Tandy wanted to watch some supernova with him or whatever. So there's all these things of him or males doing things at the behest of someone else or because a female has solved the problem for them or what have you. So it's always at the butt end of the joke. And that's fine because you want to tell a comedy thing. The whole point of the story, regardless of how you get there, is to tell the joke, is to get the funny. And that's fine. It's when we see it, we're like, wait a second, why is this pattern keep happening again? Why are these characters acting the way they are? So that is the issue. It's not that you can't make fun of men and women. That's fine. It's a comedy show. It's just it's consistently women are doing better than men. The only exception, and this is the best episode, was episode 3, where Jack actually stabs Mariner and takes the center stage and fights the guy, and Mariner's like, "Oh, this guy's kind of hot." Like that, it was at least something. So that's what you need, though. You need characters to contradict your main characters and challenge them. So you need those elements, and you need to be consistently happening, or else your character is a Mary Sue, and just perfect at everything. And if Jack wasn't there, I'm sure what's her name would have been totally fine with solving the problem. So you still need to have some proper hurdles for your characters to overcome. Oh, I'm below on Super Chats. I'm sorry. Alex Halo, anime does it to everyone. True equality. Anime's a bit more mature in most cases. There's some episodes where they focus on the childish mentality or the young adult mentality, where that's the purpose of the narrative, so that's fine. But for the most part, it is rather intelligent. And that's why people...
Anime really is like what our market was like in the 1980s. Like, it's so free to do whatever you want.
It is...
And the audience doesn't care if it's this or that, and if it doesn't totally make sense, because they're there for a story. They're hungry, and they're excited. And then the creators, they want to make the content. And in the West, we have this fucking political black smoke screen that just makes it impossible to get anything good done, and is destroying the industry. I have to deal with it every day. I get up and I hear some phone call about some bullshit every single day.
I think it's funny when even places like Russia have a lot more freedom to actually write what they want to write. Fucking Russia. Like, where people go missing because they disagree with the current establishment. They're more
Putin
free.
has no enemies. I don't know what you're talking about. Putin doesn't have any political opposition. Everybody.
Everyone loves Putin.
It's kind of interesting when you watch, was it RT or RT.com? Like, they have these completely, like, whoa, they're criticizing the West. Holy shit, that's amazing. I love it. So you got to be careful with some of these the non-Pravda, I guess, intelligentsia shows. So
do you have something that's actually useful from Russia today that you want to send to somebody, and they go, "Oh, it's Russian propaganda," and I go, "I know, but it's more accurate than ours."
Yeah, it's funny. Let's keep going. Tyler Preston, the Galbrush paradox explains why. If you know what the Galbrush paradox is, that was, I think, was that an extension of Gamergate? What the hell was that? Example.
No, it's Guybrush. It's Guybrush from
Monkey Island,
the adventure game series.
Yeah.
That you can't just Fuck. Here we go. Let me explain the exact Gamergate wiki definition. The Galbrush paradox is an example of why misguided, knee-jerk criticism of female characters leads to the gentrification and exclusion of female characters from video games. So basically, consider Guybrush Threepwood, start of the Monkey Island series. He's weak, socially awkward, cowardly, kind of a nerd, and generally the last person you'd think of, even a cabin boy on a pirate ship, let alone captain one. He is abused verbally and physically, mistreated, shunned, hated, and generally made to feel unwanted. Now let's say Guybrush was a girl. We'll call her Galbrush. Galbrush is weak, socially awkward, cowardly, kind of a nerd, and generally the last person you'd think of to even cabin boy on a pirate ship, let alone captain one. She is abused verbally and physically, mistreated, shunned, hated, and generally made to feel unwanted. Now you might notice I've given the exact same description to both of these characters. But here's where things deviate. While no one cares if Guybrush takes a pounding for being, for lack of a better term, less than ideal pirate, Galbrush will be presumed to be discriminated against because of her gender. In fact, every hardship she will endure, though exactly the same as the hardships Guybrush endured, will be considered misogyny rather than someone being ill-suited to their desired calling. Here you go.
Yeah, I would say that that's very much a victim mentality, which we were talking about before.
Now, it really has to do with people's perception on what media is supposed to be. Because I think, Shiny, you're a purist with it, and I think that you have the right attitude where, like, just talk about the writing. Just focus on if the storytelling and the connecting bits are good. The content of it can be subject to your taste. You know, if someone can go out there and make a, communist story, and I could probably still enjoy it because it's well written or respected at the very least. You know what I mean? But what they can't do is go in and inject their politics, even if I agreed with it, into Star Trek. If suddenly Star Trek became a pro-America nationalistic material, I'd be like, wait a minute, I don't even want that. That's not the point.
Well, I think it's just a lot stronger argument to make when you can talk about quality, because ultimately you can disagree with politics. You know, you can say, well, actually women this, actually gay that. But when you can now you can get it down on the floor if you can actually talk about the quality, because quality is a lot more objective. If this is creating an actual writing flaw, specifically with characters, it's a lot easier to nail down, and not necessarily with people who are not going to be very disingenuous and not listen to you at all, even if you are right. But in terms of people who are going to listen to you, the audience, the people who are in the middle, it's much easier for them to see you as more reasonable if you're talking about the actual quality of the story in general and how the politics is hurting the story because it is being motivated by politics, rather than actually just saying that it is this politics or that politics. Because if you actually just say that it's this politics and then you make no other argument, that is kind of like a weak argumentation to make, and it is ultimately then just down to, well, I believe this and I believe that.
I don't think that necessarily. I agree with that, by the way. I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that the reason why I have to point out the social context for a lot of this stuff is because it affects the business aspect. If the business were centered around making this quality content, or making a quantity of content for people that want it, even if it was just shovelware in comparison, you know what I mean? It would still be better than content that's been tainted by a sort of external idealistic sentiment that is antithetical to the core audience. Then I think that it's more important to serve your core audience and to be consistent and faithful to them and have that as your business model than it is to try and appeal to other groups by manipulating your core content. I think that as soon as you try and turn entertainment and the personal expression of a piece of art into a general tool, I think it debases that art. I think that the personal aspect of art and a message that's made of a time or something that people want to leave as a legacy for the purpose of greater serving humanity and doing something that's lasting, I think those things are the noble things that I like to fight for. I very, very much want to fight for the freedom of speech and expression that I feel like is under attack as the justification for why the bad writing that you point out isn't bad. So like I feel like it's two different sides of something, the shadow of it and the obviousness of it and the actual mechanics of it that you're bringing up. So it's good. I think that we're both attacking the same thing at two different points.
Here's John Lemley's simple use of logic. If female characters are meant to represent women and it's now misogynistic to tear them down, why is the same courtesy extended to male characters? And we can do that easily with all the characters, really. They're very similar in that regard. They're opposites here and there. But yeah, imagine if Mariner was a male and Boilermer was a female. How would we react to this prim and proper female character who's doing everything by the book and constantly failing? How would we react to a male Mariner who's this rebellious son and breaking all the rules but solving all the problems? I would arguably feel exactly the same. I wouldn't bother me one way or the other. Because, again, we're in Star Trek land.
It's poor writing. Poor writing is poor writing either way.
We see these characters as how they function within the context of whatever scenario they're in, and we see patterns now. So if the next episode, what's her name is going to, or our male character is going to suddenly fail. Like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Do they have skills to solve the problem? They don't. Oh my God, how are they going to get out of this problem? Then I'd be a little impressed. I'd be like, oh my goodness, they're in a scenario they've never encountered before. They're going to learn something. They're going to get in pain. They're going to have a hurdle they can't overcome. That would be something. That would feel like a and you could put slapstick to that. You could put all different flavors of comedy and still maintain the genre of the show. So that would make us, and it wouldn't be character retconning at all. It would just be this thing that they just don't know. And they don't know what to do. They've never been in this scenario. It's a big galaxy. I'm sure there's something Mariner hasn't done yet that they'd encounter. So that's all we're asking for. Believable characters and whatever brand of humor that doesn't make us cringe. So I think that's all you have to do with a comical Star Trek. Just make us laugh and don't ruin the franchise you've been given.
It's just destructive and dumb and just limits not only what women characters can be, but what male characters can be too.
You're trying to talk about this, reducing what male characters can be in this context?
Star Trek has gotten too dark and cynical. It's all about being depressing and showing how horrible humanity has truly become. Now, to be honest, this is actually a criticism that I totally get to a degree. I understand Discovery and Picard coming across as too dark or, for some, cynical for people's tastes. And even for me, Lower Decks, which is substantially brighter and more positive in tone compared to Discovery and Picard, definitely feels...
Is it really? Is it brighter in tone? It's
I would
funnier.
say it is, in terms of like visually, it's a lot lighter and dark. It's a lot less dark than Picard and Discovery. I'll agree to that point, but I would still say it fundamentally goes against the. I wouldn't say it's positive, and I'd say it goes against a lot of what Star Trek was, the messages of Star Trek, not stealing, the value of possessions and all that kind of stuff. It actively goes against all that.
Remember the goriest episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where everyone had this weird parasite and they were eating like they were super powerful and they were infiltrating the Federation? Like that was a pretty gory, disgusting episode. That was nothing compared to the zombie takeover thing or whatever that crazy inorganic thing that took over and made it organic and just almost destroyed a ship. Like it's pretty destructive, gross stuff.
Well, that's why I say relatively, because if you compare it to Picard and Discovery, yes. If you compare it to like a regular TNG, I would say it's actually darker.
Well, that's because Picard is...
I would say that, the comedy of Lower Decks gives that appearance of brightness. But it's beneath the surface. It's just as nihilistic, just as dark. I mean, you have them, the comedic psychopathy. Throwing life away, or not caring about whether people live or die. And sorry.
Yeah, there's various scenes in Picard we know that are gore-filled or just brutal. The whole attitude with Seven is completely that just like, where did that come from? I mean, changing characters, the dark tone of the future of Earth and the retcons of technology, all these things make this weird painting we weren't expecting. So when you have like a transporter not work or a replicator not work properly, all these other things, like this is not the future. Everything should be fine. Like we shouldn't have to clean the holodeck. What's going on here? So there's lots of things that don't add up. And when you start getting gritty, when you start getting the nuts and bolts of stuff, that's when you see, wait a second, the future is not as bright as we thought. It's messy and dirty and disgusting when it shouldn't be. And you can argue, well, they're adding to the lore. They're making it more detailed. They're making it more believable. It's like, no, they're not. They're retconning stuff. When you're adding detail that contradicts what came before, that's a retcon. You have to add on top. You have to exemplify. You have to make sure everything adds up and then put more stuff on. Not change how the equation of the holodeck operates or the inability for the transporter to detect a virus or this or that. So I would say it's much darker.
Refreshing for me in this current era of modern Trek. But I do think that Disco and Picard have good artistic reasons for using Star Trek to critique.
Disco?
Star Trek Discovery.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird way to describe it because they don't want to use STD.
Our modern society. I did a video on it, or will be. It either has come out or will come out. I'll put it up there. I have too many videos. I don't remember when they all come out. But they use this darker tone to show us how we get from the darkness to the light, like in Star Trek Discovery, or being more critical of how we glorify our...
Wait. You're trying to tell me an entire episode, which is completely dark, is a transition between the darkness and the light in another episode? Isn't that just the production and how they designed the shots?
No, what she's saying is that Michael, the beginning of Discovery showed the darkness of the Starfleet, and then by the end of the first season, they prop up what TNG, the original series, prop up as the ideals of Starfleet. But that was thanks to Michael Burnham. Again,
Are they referring to just the lighting? Like the color palette or the tone of the story?
I would say both.
Well, you can't say both. That's two different things.
Well, I think that's what they're referring to.
So they're equating color and lighting to feeling and vibe and subject matter?
Because usually if you were smart, you would actually use color, lighting, and tone to actually reflect what's happening in certain scenes or to... they kind of use it more thematically as the best way I could describe it, because you can use it in that way. Like, for example, lighter scenes, you probably wouldn't light them really dark and gritty, covered with red lighting, and if that makes sense. You'd probably have it very well lit, very saturated.
Yeah, I distinctly recall the lack of lighting in the movies of TNG. Like, there was like no light on in the ready room, or the captain's office was like, what the hell? Like, someone turn off the lights in space or something. What's happening? And
they're trying to make it more cinematic.
Yeah, spotlights. Yeah.
Well, that was the whole reason they destroyed the Enterprise E, so they could have a more cinematic Enterprise.
Ugh. I think the Enterprise E was pretty intrepid enough. It was pretty dark.
Institutions like the Federation so much that it prevents us from seeing the flaws in the system like they did in Star Trek Picard. Those are great messages, great modern messages that can really only be told using Star Trek, which has a utopian history behind it.
So it's fine because you can only tell these stories with Star Trek with a utopian history. No, you can tell stories in dystopia, and that isn't an excuse at all. Because it's okay because there's no other way you could tell these stories.
Plenty of dark
I
stories.
think this video made me bipolar because now I'm just depressed. Like, this is just. Sorry, Smud, you were going to say something. I'll let you go.
Well, you can tell all sorts of dark stories in TNG, and they did. There's all sorts of scary, nasty horror stories in there. So, yeah, that does involve a change of tone and color, like visually, and it also has to do with subject matter. So, if a god is taking over the ship and slowly killing people, if the Borg is slicing open part of the ship and everyone dies. So there's plenty of instances of Star Trek, despite being in Roddenberry's future, where people die and lose their minds or start killing each other. So it's completely inconsequential to the premise of an episode or the color palette or this or that. Not hard to do. We see a lot of that with Voyager. In fact, Year of Hell is a great example.
Not only that, but with Picard, they have the Federation become against the androids for that one incident, and it's just like a shortcut. They just want to have these stories. They want to tell that one story, and they just don't want to do the legwork to make the story make sense.
I would completely agree, and I think this is even a better example is Force Awakens when it comes to this, because J.J. Abrams didn't care what came before. He wanted to tell his story, and he didn't want to do the legwork to connect it at all. He wanted Rebels versus Empire, ignore the New Republic, ignore anything that came before, let the books fill that in, and Aftermath did a terrible job at that.
And so can bring added weight to this social critique that these writers are attempting. But again, that's a taste thing, and I understand that some people think that these stories aren't the type of stories that Trek should tell, or stories that they like, or even take issues with.
No, it's not a taste thing if it's actively contradicting
stories. I don't agree, but I get it. But I do think the Phantom Menace uses this attack incredibly loosely and all too often, without really actually critiquing the thought behind it.
It's not an attack, it's a critique.
Oh, it's too dark, without using any real analysis with what the shows are at least.
It has a zombie invasion where people are eating each other.
You have Icheb being ripped apart and screaming while he's still alive and still awake. He's fully conscious. They even make the point that they don't have any anesthetic as his eyes being ripped out of his socket. And then you have Seven of Nine who has to mercy kill him. No one cared about Icheb. No one. But a lot of people, I think LitDev said this as well as myself, felt disgusted and thought, what the fuck, even though we didn't care about this character before. What the hell are you doing?
And there's nothing wrong with telling dark stories in utopian worlds or idealistic worlds. It's
how you do it.
Well, this is a strawman argument.
Like you say, I get it, but I don't really care. It's like, if you get it, you should understand the idea and see the problems therein.
I'd like to counter this by saying the argument isn't that it's too dark, it's that it's too stupid and that it's brutally stupid. So if you have, you can say, oh yeah, we need to tell stories. The fact is Picard tells one story. It tells the story of Picard, and then all of the tangential characters are all tied into a singular plot. It's like a movie. It's not really a television series. All of it is centered around things that go against what Star Trek is about. Mm-hmm. All the logic that is employed to make the plot actually function are bad. So the idea that they're going to bait people into watching the series that is stupid, which is what people didn't want because they wanted a smart series, you're trying to get people that were interested in something that was family-friendly entertainment that everybody could watch in front of the TV and turn it into something that is dark and rated R, where people's eyes are getting pulled out. That doesn't seem very intuitive to me, and I think that it sounds like a clashing of tone and construction.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also like how they use darkness as well. I mentioned this in one of my videos where I mentioned that in the past, in Deep Space Nine especially, darkness was used as a scalpel to add depth to certain characters, but now it kind of feels more like they're just using it as a club, just bang everything without adding any kind of depth. It adds nothing to the story of what's happening to Icheb other than setting up Seven of Nine's flimsy motivation for why she's doing everything. But it feels more like they're just bludgeoning it over the head rather than skillfully using it. And it's kind of what I'd say similar to the Snyderverse, where they think just being dark is good writing, so therefore they just make everything dark without a single thought of how it's supposed to work with the story and how it's supposed to work narratively.
Well, they like ideas of things. They don't like the journey to get there. They don't like to put in the work.
It's like you can do a lot of these ideas. Its problem is that the hard ideas to do, or the worst ideas, or what would be considered worse ideas, are just ideas which would be next to impossible or just very difficult. You'd have to have a very skilled writer to write them in well enough. But it's not the ideas themselves; it's how they're implemented, and ideas which generally you should try and stay away from, like time travel, for instance. A very skilled writer can write in time travel, but generally we say it's a rule to not randomly add time travel into your story because of how much it fucks up and how difficult it is of an idea to accomplish. Especially when you only have, what's like a 20, you're only spending like 20 minutes on the subject at most in TV or a film, which is coming as a sequel to something else, because shows like Back to the Future are all centered around time travel, whereas something like World Between Worlds in Rebels is something which is adding time travel to a universe which has existed forever without it.
Attempting to use that darkness for. Argue if you like it or not, or argue if you think the darkness has been effective in what it's trying to do story-wise, but they just yell, "It's dark," without saying anything else.
Who
Number
is they?
5, Roddenberry's
Who are you
Vision.
talking about?
Right, this is
The
the one
problem
that
is because she's not bringing up. She says it's because she doesn't want to attack anyone, but really here you need to be specific, because you need context here. We need to know who you're talking about, what specific arguments people are making, because without this context, it's difficult to nail down anything. Because you just say they very arbitrarily, like everyone is, and surprise, surprise, different people have different beliefs and different ways of looking at things. Not everyone in the Fandom Menace agrees on everything. Not even everyone in this call agrees on everything. My arguments with Glib proves that much. So if you just say the Smudcast as they, that wouldn't even be accurate because we disagree.
Yeah, there has been other dark episodes in TNG, especially in DS9, where it's either people getting turned into or reverting back to their original forms, or Nagilum about to just wipe everyone out, or all these episodes exist. So it's not that you can't tell bleak stories. Is this Star Trek in the tone that would be acceptable in comparison to those stories? So Nagilum is like just slowly killing people off. That's pretty darn nihilistic. It's like, all right, geez, we got to get rid of this guy. We're going to give up. We're not going to subject the entire crew to torture. So lots of episodes like that. Torture was a theme. But a zombie invasion plot that didn't get catched by the transporter, and people are getting eaten and killed and just thrown under the rug as if it's nothing happened. Haha, it's funny. You can do comedy within that tone, but you have to be realistic about it. Oh yeah, we lost half the crew. It's like, what? Haha, that's the joke. This is a horrible, horrible world you're in. If this was the case, and then there's no repercussions. It was just a joke. Next episode, nothing changed. So these are the problems, the continuity issues. If you're working off a hard science fiction base, you got to know what the hell you're doing. The jokes really have to work. I mean, it's going to be hard enough to tell a comedy within real actors. Imagine like a Star Trek Next Generation spinoff called Lower Decks. I remember the Lower Decks episode. That was a dark story too. They lost an ensign. So, you can have drama. You can have comedy. It's really tough to do, to combine genres. And this is exactly what they're trying to do. And they don't know how to do it. I don't know why they bothered to attempt this.
Well, I think Discovery would work better as a Stargate or Farscape series. It doesn't really fit with Star Trek. It's the tone and the costume design and just the flow of the episodes.
Yeah, look at Stargate Universe. That entire show came about by influence from Battlestar Galactica, and all it was dark. They took the world of Stargate, made it dark in the style of BSG. Farscape's even crazier. That's several genres combined. But it's designed that way from the get-go to be crazy. And to have
It's also not working off of existing material, because Farscape would, if you just shoved Farscape as a sequel into Star Trek, it really wouldn't work.
it's tough to argue, because you're taking an existing thing which has its own giant history with all kinds of expectations, hard science fiction, the hardest science fiction series on TV I've ever heard of, and trying to make it a joke. You have a very narrow window to tell those jokes.
They've already been here with like cartoon spin-offs. They tried to make like another one with Stargate as well. I can't remember what it was called,
Really?
but I think it was Stargate Infinity. They tried to make a really wacky cartoon.
Well, the original Stargate SG-1 was kind of comical. Like it was serious
It had comedy elements
and lighthearted. Yeah,
it balanced a lot of things. It balanced.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of romance, a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy. Yeah, it was a bit of everything. So it was lighthearted.
If anyone tries to shit on O'Neill, I swear to God, I will punch you in the face. O'Neill is God.
This is probably why, because I liked Stargate Universe and Atlantis better, just because they got a bit more serious while still trying to maintain it.
I actually do like Atlantis better over Stargate SG-1, but at the exact same time, I love both of them. I think Atlantis is just a bit more streamlined.
It's more focused, yeah. They have a very the choices they make in the major plot points aren't the best. Some of the ideas are good. The execution's bad, like the idea of Michael, the hybrid. Great idea. Just what they did with that was bad. Same with Ford. Mm-hmm. Great idea. Just what they did with that was bad. So lots of great ideas. Just they didn't know how to finish off the stories.
It's also a show which managed to pull off time travel pretty well, because whenever you add time travel, they add it as an accident, and the only way they're able to get back is because of the future knowledge that they have from being from the future, of knowing exactly, because you can't in the world you can't predict a solar flare, but because they're in the future, they know when a solar flare is going to happen from that note from Hammond, and the way it's set up. And then paid off with the note in the pocket, it works, and it's managed to pull off time travel, which is very difficult to do for a lot of series and a lot of franchises.
It's kind of funny. The ending of SG-1 was not too dissimilar from the villains.
That's when you just cut off.
Sorry,
you just cut out.
Am I there? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, you just cut off there.
Oh,
you
sorry.
said something funny. The ending. Stop.
No, I was just about to ramble on about the similarity to the Paw Wraiths in DS9 to the Ori in SG-1. Anyway, not going to go there. Here's a super chat from Zach again. That is a major. Poo poo pee pee. Sharknado 5 reaction now. Poo poo pee pee. I don't think we're going to do another Sharknado ever. I think that was enough.
Yeah.
One was enough for life, guys. I don't think you need any more Sharknados in your existence. Once you've been there, you know the. And I can only imagine the first few are probably worse. So, yeah.
Well, do they have time travel?
Oh God, I wouldn't even call that time. That was just like random teleportation to Fantasyland.
And they have what's his name? Some TV scientist.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
They had Neil deGrasse Tyson as Merlin. That was amazing.
Oh God, it was too much.
Who needs science when you've got a dragon?
Yeah, no, we're not gonna.
It's amazing.
We have other things to do for movie night. We just got to get organized for showing. What do we have on the slate for movie night?
Liddev wants to watch. What was it? Some TV show that he liked.
Oh, that cartoon that just got canceled.
Venture Brothers, I believe.
Venture Brothers, yeah. Which I haven't heard of. It's been on for like 17 years.
Best cartoon ever.
Yeah, apparently it's excellent.
It's like one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's keep going. Let's go until, 12 minutes, 13 minutes, just to get a nice even number here, and we'll call it a night, because these arguments are just hurting. It's like, yeah, I agree and I understand it, but it's not really a big deal. It's like, what? No. You either agree and understand it, and you know the arguments for it, or you don't.
without saying anything else. Number 5, Roddenberry's vision. All right, this is the one that...
So this is actually very similar to the previous statement because it's too dark and Roddenberry had a very bright future. So
Yeah, that's the point.
It's active. There are some amazing Major Grin videos that actively go over all the problems in how many times they contradict messages of previous stories.
Yeah.
So it's not just the attitude; it's the message itself that they're actively contradicting.
really grinds my gears. Because jumping off of the too dark thing is the Fandom Menace's endless appeals to Gene Roddenberry's vision. They appeal to this authority of a vision that Roddenberry had of a world without conflict, where everyone takes delight in the differences of others. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, that's the exact vision as I just described. That is what totally makes me love Star Trek. This belief that humanity will choose to focus on the best of ourselves.
Okay, so she's acknowledging it. This is the way it should be. And we know
humanity is evolved. Specifically humanity. Specifically.
Yeah, so we have this idealized view of the future. We have this amazing energy source. We have peace. We have a unity of planets. We have amazing technology. And that's not in Star Trek Lower Decks. It's not in Picard. It's not in Discovery. Okay?
Oh, just on the topic of Stargate Atlantis, before we go too far away from it, one thing I'm actually excited that might be going forward is the interview with David Hewlett, who played Rodney McKay. He seems open to it. It's just because he's busy. I really hope I'm able to go forward with that because that'd be quite exciting.
Please bring up his stint on Traitors, just because no one knows that show.
You know, like I did with Shadowversity, I'm going to go over a lot of stuff to come up with questions. I suppose if you have any questions as well, because you've probably seen him in things which I haven't.
I think.
Wait, is that?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but do you have Data with a cowboy hat on your profile? Fistful of Datas or whatever it's. Glib. Oh, never mind. So you keep going.
No, I'm trying to remember. There's another character.
Paying attention.
There's another character from Stargate on Traitors as well. So, yeah, you got to do some homework there. Check it out.
I will.
All right, super chats. Let's have a Con Air movie night. Ooh, after watching Con Air,
I'd watch that.
We're gonna watch The Rock.
I'd watch Nicolas Cage shit.
Yeah, Con Air.
Yeah, we can watch The Rock.
And The Rock.
Then can we watch? We'll do 3 of them. We'll do what is it? Kiss of the Vampire.
Ooh, I was gonna recommend Gone in 60 Seconds, but that one's good too.
That's another good one. Nicolas Cage has a great B movie, a celebrity B movie, whatever going on. I don't know what it is, but I love it.
Here's Zach that doesn't major again. In the third one, David Hasselhoff, oh my goodness, is his father, and they go to space to stop a sharkicane with a lightsaber chainsaw and a space laser.
Is that why they tried to rip off the Star Wars poster for Force Awakens?
A lightsaber chainsaw?
Lightsaber chainsaw.
I don't even. How would that even? I mean, no, never mind. We'll just keep going.
just keep going.
Plus, Finn rides inside. Oh, the Finn, right? Finn from Sharknado, not Finn from Star. Rides inside a shark through the atmosphere. What? He rides inside a shark through the atmosphere to get back to the surface.
Look, we're already past the point of sense in Sharknado.
How do you get from the atmosphere back to the back to the surface? And his wife gives birth to their child inside the shark as it's burning.
As it burns.
Sounds retarded.
That is one sentence. What is going?
You know. And funny enough, that probably fits in line with all the rest of the films.
Oh dear.
I'm pretty sure that there's somewhere beyond jumping the shark at this point.
Jumping the Sharknado.
Oh God. I think that those 2 sentences, I don't think I need to watch anything else. I think that was enough. Lightsaber chainsaw. Okay, that's.
I think Doom needs a lightsaber chainsaw.
I think that is enough imagination for one day. My brain
Pretty
is...
sure Batwoman had a lightsaber chainsaw.
All right, where were we? Something about Roddenberry, right? Okay.
But let's quick talk about Roddenberry the man when we talk about what that vision means.
Why?
When it's played out in actual
Who cares?
storytelling. What glory days of Trek are the FandomMenace actually appealing to when they say Roddenberry's vision? Because when they bring up in the context of Lower Decks or even Discovery or Picard, it's whenever they see even minor disparaging comments or remarks between Starfleet types. Like this moment here in Lower Decks.
Thank you so much. Can I just say that I'm really honored to
Keep it moving, Lower Decks.
Next.
Keep it moving, Lower Decks. Lower Decks was an insult, you see. A jaded and bored officer addressing an optimistic new ensign with contempt. So isn't that wonderful? A lack of respect for fellow officers? Segregation, as it turns out.
Glad you're
between
actually
the
bringing
upper and the
context.
lower decks.
But yeah, what Doomcock is actually going on about here is actually true, because they are actively setting up a class divide between the lower decks and the upper decks, and that's something that they keep pushing for in a lot of the episodes, that there is some kind of class divide. So he's not wrong.
It's not just one instance. That was the first one, but like you said, they repeatedly do it.
I would say Doomcock, from time to time, can go a little extreme and what was the right word? Exaggerated, but I can understand, because from his point of view, he is very upset and angry, and when people are upset and angry, it's a lot more understandable that they can be a little bit more exaggerative.
Well, even Boilmer is...
But he's often exaggerating a correct point. Something which is already it is true, it's just exaggerated a little bit.
Well, even Boilmer is exemplifying the upper decks, or whatever you want to call the bridge crew, with they get better options on their replicator and whatever.
Food.
Yeah,
they get better food, they get better equipment, they get better this, that, and the other. They get actual quarters, where apparently ensigns don't get quarters in lower decks.
Yeah,
which is bizarre, because they always had quarters. If you actually, I brought something again, one of my videos where I looked at the actual. It's from EC. The original diagram is actually from EC Henry. But if you compare the size of the crew to the actual size of the Enterprise ship, it's insane. So you actually have a lot of room for a lot of people in terms of quarters. You also and Voyager itself is even big for its 200 crew. Same with Enterprise. Same with I'm trying to think of another thing now. The closest you can get is the Defiant, which is because it's a pretty small ship with a crew complement of 50. And that's why they have to bunk up. And that's often a rarity that people have to bunk up like that.
That was the one ship designed specifically for fighting. It's super small. I love that. Yeah.
Because it's super small, it's super maneuverable, it's only got the necessities.
Yep.
There's no holodecks.
Exactly.
And even then, they had to bunk up with like another person. They didn't have to live down this big hallway.
Yeah, of like a dozen bunks. You're like, what? Who designed this?
Then Mariner says, "Oh, look, because she has her own quarters, she's so far away from everyone." It's like, well, just having a house doesn't mean you're far away from everyone. Just having a room or an apartment.
Optimism.
Starfleet officers would never show disregard for each other, except in shows like Star Trek The Next Generation, where they do exactly that.
Broccoli makes me nervous, Captain. He makes everybody nervous.
Broccoli. Young Mr. Crusher started that. I guess it's caught on.
Poor Broccoli.
Oh, he calls someone a nickname. Oh, how horrible. He's a horrible, horrible person.
But Doomcock is specifically talking about the class divide that they are trying to push.
Yeah, and that's just one episode, and one we haven't even established if it was a well-written episode yet.
Spoilers, it wasn't.
There you go.
I know someone's trying to ask me to check my Discord. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of messages on my Discord all the time. I'd be happy to check it. Thank you very much. If this is about Sharknado, oh dear. Please no.
No Sharknado. I don't care. I don't like Sharknado.
Fuck off.
Send me a good movie to watch.
I like the idea about watching other movies, just not those.
I like the idea about watching a movie.
Yeah,
That's
please.
about as far as I go.
An actual
kick
movie.
you back with a good bit of alcohol, your feet up, watching a good film.
Please.
Hot fuzz.
Anyway, let's keep going.
Pardon me, but why is Lieutenant Barclay being referred to clandestinely as a vegetable?
Again, see how disingenuously, like, this minuscule focus on minor moments in an episode are applied, and how they
How is this disingenuous?
Behind his back, when they're calling him a vegetable. To his face, does anybody treat Barclay poorly? No. Does anybody actually dislike Barclay? No.
The thing is that that's even like one individual that's very different to a class divide.
Oh,
It's not
let's
because
go
he's a
back.
low rank. That's because he's weird.
Go
He's
back
got
to
a
the writer's
holodeck.
guide that Gene wrote. Let's go all the way back to 1967.
And just like Shiny said, it was a badly written episode.
No, I was talking about Lower Decks. I wasn't talking about the TNG
Oh.
episode.
Oh, I thought you were. Sorry.
No, that's actually a good episode.
If you're one of... This is so funny. People should read this.
Barclay's actually a good character. He's well written.
Well, yeah, I would agree. But that episode, I mean, she hasn't established how people feel about that. You know, she's assuming, oh, hey, you didn't have a problem with this, but maybe people do have a problem with it.
The show is also portraying it as treating it wrong. Picard is actively against like throwing Barclay off the ship, and being mean to him. He's like Picard is saying that you need to help him. You can't just pass your problems off to someone else just because you don't like him. It's showing it as wrong.
Yeah, and Wesley's like, oh, poor Broccoli. He cares about the guy. He's like, oh, geez, this is not good. He's not like, yeah, whatever, Broccoli.
Let's go back to page 28 of the Star Trek Writer's Guide from 1967. Must the starship crew be perfect humans? And the answer is no. You can project too optimistically. We want characters with a reasonable mixture of strength, weaknesses, and foibles. Again, believability is the key here. What kind of men would logically and believably man a vessel of this type? Obviously, they'd be better selected and trained than the wild enlisted shore leave group and Mr. Roberts. On the other hand, they have not gotten too stuffy to enjoy themselves and their senses on liberty in an exotic alien city filled with unique pleasures. So it can't physically be Lower Decks if you're following the Star Trek Writer's Guide. Okay? It just doesn't match.
Wait, there is actually like a publicly available Star Trek Writer's Guide?
Yes, there is, and everybody should read it. And if somebody's going to be a writer on Star Trek, they should read it.
Look, could you just slide that to me?
Yeah.
I'd be interested in looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, let's keep on.
Thank you. I will take that.
Let's go, boys.
Ignore previous entries of Star Trek franchises and how those moments were used to create interesting conflict or show something about the character like they did in Lower Decks.
But it's not interesting conflict in
But okay, we can
Lower
say
Decks.
maybe Gene Roddenberry had passed away by the time that episode, The Next Generation, aired. Maybe they're talking about stuff that he had more direct involvement.
Which episode are we talking about? The episode with Barclay?
Yes.
The episode where Barclay takes over the ship and becomes this like super genius guy?
No.
Or the episode where he does Serena de Bergerac?
The episode where they established Barclay.
So Barclay, from that point to the arc of his character, becomes a fully self-actualized person that fits in with the rest of them. And then Geordi goes, "There's something different about you, Barclay." And then he goes, "What? I have self-confidence like the rest of the crew?" He assimilates to them, which instantly makes Barclay better than Mariner, because he at least follows the rules and regulations. He's just so anxious. And he wants to be accepted. Again, in Star Trek proper, Boimler would be a Barclay ripoff, where there would be a senior character, and they would take Boimler under their wings. In fact, in Star Trek proper, with this exact same crew, Boimler would be the the school suck up to the teacher. What's that guy called in school? I haven't been in school for 40 years now, 700 years. But anyway, the guy that brings the apple for the teacher. The person that's trying to be so perfect, they would be like taken under the wing of a captain or a commander or some person, and that would piss off Mariner because Mariner's out here trying to do their own thing. The very essence of what Star Trek is about people working together. So having a character that's out there to not work together, that wants to keep everything secret, that wants to do everything her way, and that's the evil admiral character in Star Trek. That's what Mariner represents. But Mariner is like this self-important kid that assumes that they deserve everything, was given all these opportunities, and then shits on the very thing and endangers everything. But in fact, the thing that she's shitting on and endangering turns out she was right the whole time. So this is an unworkable story if you're using Star Trek. The only thing that you can do at this point is say, oh, it's supposed to be that way because it's a comedy. That's the only argument that works for this. And that relies on funniness, which is subjective. It's not faithful Star Trek. So this is stupid.
And even then, it's still a contradiction.
Involvement in, like the original series. Gene Roddenberry was involved in the original series where he, guess what, showed conflict between crew members.
I would insist upon a decent burial, even if your body was back there. Mr. Boma.
That's different to class divide. It's not because any of them are lower rank than any other.
Well, the thing that
it's not because of prejudice.
Well, we explained it before. It's a vessel of this size and complexity, along with a crew of 430 contrasting individuals, would have to be a pretty sterile place if it didn't contain many tales with considerable entertainment value. So,
one of the ongoing conflicts in the original story was the conflict between Spock and Bones. You have the human guy and you have the mostly logical Vulcan guy, and they're always arguing. It's fairly common, and other people argue with Spock because he's just too Vulcan. Fine. That's part of the story of Star Trek. The elements of conflict are between aliens and humans, not humans and humans.
Just really random, but do you remember when Jessie Gender tried to say that Bones saying you out of your Vulcan mind, trying to say that was racist?
Really?
Thank you for saying teacher's pet. No, out of your Vulcan mind isn't racist. It's a way of getting around saying the F word. Are you out of your fucking mind? McCoy.
Yeah,
that language
even then, you would just say bloody. You out of your bloody mind?
I love McCoy's little, where's your emotion, Spock? I keep my emotion to myself, Doctor.
And racism between crew members on top of that.
She found humanoid appearance revolting, but she thought she could get used to it.
Oh, she did she? Now tell me, did she happen to make any comment about those ears?
Banter is not allowed on Star Trek. That's why the FandomMenace is wrong.
When
did we ever say that this was a thing? Who has ever said?
How is this racist?
Or disrespectful? No, they're saying that disrespect between characters is. This is a counter to the idea that the guy manning the system that Mariner and Boimler come aboard is going to be this like dude that looks down upon people, and that is, it's funny that that's the case because that joke is directly relevant to the guy in Star Trek 2009. Remember, the enlisted crew and the officers were having this exact same difference where he's like, welcome aboard, cupcake, or whatever he says. He calls him a cupcake. That the entire thing is the intention. There on a starship, there's a chain of command, right? We have a chain of command. Now, you respect the chain of command. You respect the people that are fellow officers, but you're also going to have like personal differences with people. This person that's coming on board, they have no personal relationship with this guy that's registering them. And we've also had characters that didn't want to be in Starfleet. We had Ensign Ro, did not want to be. She was still trying to do her duties faithfully. It was just in the way that they wanted to. This sense of conflict is not the issue. What I think that the issue is that I think that what Doomcock is bringing up here is that from the get-go, the ship is seen as an inhospitable, terrible place. Whereas when we've seen that in Deep Space Nine, we had a reason. It wasn't the Federation's reason why the thing was all destroyed. The Federation keeps things ship-shape. Doomcock is pointing out that we are degrading in small values everything that is foundationally relevant to Star Trek. So the idea of having the respect between characters, even when they disagree. You know what I mean? Like we have the episode with Jellicoe and Riker, and they don't like each other, clearly. It's because of the way that they operate the ship. And they also personally don't like each other because they can't really see around the duty aspect. But then they do drop rank and then they say something to each other. But they still work together. That element is not in Star Trek Lower Decks. What happens in Star Trek Lower Decks is a character will disrespect another character and then they'll just move on. It won't be there's no resolution to things because the resolution is always in the favor of Mariner and the writers over the canonicity of the thing that they're working in and upholding the values of Star Trek. The values of Star Trek can be debased for the sake of a joke that the writer wants to put in. That's what Doomcock is pointing out.
I wouldn't say it's a joke at that point because it's not even. I don't know if it's even supposed to be funny or if it is funny. Just saying, "Oh, I'm really honored to be here." It's like, keep it moving. Shut up. I don't care. Fuck off.
Well, just to respond to Edax, Jellicoe, he says Jellicoe just tosses Picard to the Cardassians. Yeah, the funniest thing about that episode and what I like about it so much, and what I like about Star Trek is that because you're operating within the realm of the writer's guide most of the time, if you're doing an episode that something changes, there's a way to play off of that expectation. And so when Jellicoe at first is like, yeah, we're going to leave Picard behind, everyone's like, what the fuck? And then as soon as they figure out that Jellicoe actually does understand the Cardassians and they are the ones that lack the information, he can then negotiate for Picard and secures him. I think Rich Evans was mentioning how funny it is that Jellicoe is basically right about everything. And it's criticism of the show itself from the writer, but it fits within the realm of the characters. It fits within the writer's guide because it's still following the laws and rules and the guidelines of Star Trek.
It's just, yeah. Even though he's showing conflict here, he's showing banter. She's showing banter, and she's showing argumentation. But just because people argue, just because people disagree, just because people banter, I don't even think banter's a negative thing. That doesn't mean they don't respect each other. Whereas this is a very obvious lack of respect to someone purely because you view them as he views the person, the lower rank, as below him, and doesn't respect them at all because they are a lower deck, as he refers them to.
But again, let's give it to the FandomMenace. This was Gene's evolving vision. He hadn't completely perfected it in the time of Star Trek, the original series. Let's look at something that he had a bigger hand in later on down the line, like Star Trek the Motion Picture, where, oh my god, there's a conflict between Kirk and Decker.
You saved the ship. I'm aware of that, sir.
Stop competing with me, Decker.
Or, you know what? Okay, you know
what? That was it?
Stop competing with me.
What?
Oh, no. They're competing. They're competing.
They're talking. A superior officer is like, what the hell? I've never seen this happen in Star Trek ever.
How is this even relevant to, again, what Doomcock was talking about with the random the disparity between the lower, or the class divide between the lower decks and the upper decks? That was what he was criticizing here, with the lack of respect. With the way they portray the lower decks and the upper decks being like the upper decks are the elite, where they get all the good food, they get actual quarters, they get this, that, and the other. That's what Doomcock was talking about in the context of the clip.
Well, exactly. I'm thinking I want to apologize to Smud because it would have been easy to debunk all this by just referencing the Star Trek Writer's Guide, right? So, but I think this is the summation of all of it, right? What have been the big problem areas in past and script, story and script submissions? A, it has been in areas of believability. Many otherwise good writers tend to pepper their science fiction with out-of-left-field coincidences, unexplained and illogical actions, unmotivated character changes, things they would never dream of perpetrating on even a kiddies show script. So we have illogical situations. For example, it is swallowing quite a bit to believe a present-day naval cruiser like our Enterprise would be full of renegades or mutineers, or that our crew includes a World War II Navy lower deck of grammar school graduate enlisted men. So there's your lower decks. We want the exotic, the inexplicable, the terrifying, but not in the USS Enterprise, its organization and mission. The ship and characters are our audience's tie to reality. So the next section is C. Intellectual rather than physical or emotional conflict. We've received some interesting analysis of possible alien civilizations, socio-economic speculation, which seemed brilliant to us. but the characters were sitting and talking rather than feeling, moving, and doing. They also fail the Gunsmoke, Kildare, Naked City rule. That is, would the basic story, stripped of science fiction aspects, make an entertaining episode for one of those shows? Don't laugh, try it. So the idea is like, if these concepts in Lower Decks do not work in other shows, then they don't work, right? And Gunsmoke, or one of these classic West television shows from the mid-century, is what they were shooting for. So I think that the only argument for Lower Decks goes against the initial foundation of Gene Roddenberry's vision. I think we can quite easily prove it in multiple ways all at once. Just any statement that Gene Roddenberry makes in the Writer's Guide is going to negate one of the arguments that was made here about why Lower Decks is good or why Picard is good.
Which says nothing of all the many conflicts that characters have between all the scenes of every series of Star Trek. They're not perfect individuals. They're not without flaws at all. They just don't always see eye to eye. With episode 4, I think that's a good example where was it Tandy? She ruins that guy's meditation, and the whole butt of that is that he was never trying to ascend in the first place. It was all a big act, and Tandy just can't. She needs to get her friend. She hates it. That's her thing. So that was actually somewhat well done, even though it was over the top, because that's the point of comedy in certain respects, where unless your opinion of comedy is not to take a truth and make it into an exaggerated example of. So that to me was like, all right, fine, I see what they're doing. But the idea then becomes, wait a second, do we have ascension? Is that a thing? Do we have higher beings ascending to higher planes that can enlist in Starfleet and just have this quest to become gods or whatever? It's like, wait a second, that would change things quite a bit. So the joke works, the over the top joke with the comedy works, but the conclusion is now we've changed the lore. So it's like, we got this right, kinda, and then we screwed it up at the end. So it's like a half-baked procedure where the writers know what they're doing. Say, well, maybe he disappears because he's really actually going to. It wasn't a joke. It's like, wait. So he wasn't joking. He wasn't lying. He was actually, there is a pathway to ascension, and his species just chances upon it. And this is not like a miracle drug, or how they had that pretty much the Fountain of Youth, and was it Star Trek whatever TNG movie? It was a really bad TNG movie where they encounter those 600-year-old people who are really young eternally. And they were going to exploit.
That was
Insurrection.
That was Insurrection, yeah. With the
where everyone gets horny and Worf gets a pimple and all this other crap.
And then Worf pulls out a purple space bazooka. And then some stuntmen jump off a bridge after the bridge is shot at with a purple space. But just as for the point that I kind of was listening to from Jessie, that where it was like the future is this dark place in Picard, and that's somehow justifiable, but Gene would reject the Picard script because the basis of it so this is the question and response. I'm still confused about Earth of the Star Trek century. You said to make logical projections into the future, then turn down my story. And Gene says, because the basis of it was an automated, regimented, inhuman Earth Federation of the future, we must have an optimistic projection of man and his society if we are to approve of and identify with Captain Kirk, the crew of the Enterprise, and their mission. However, Earth colonies, parallel civilizations, and alien cultures can present any range of problems leading to a story. So you can't really mess with the Federation too much, or else we lose the optimistic aspect of the future. That Gene knew that before the thing was even created, or
and that's in the Writer's Guide?
That's in the Writer's Guide.
Okay. I really feel like making a video about the Writer's Guide now, because it actually seems like it's a great deal of information, which I think would actually be very good to go over.
Absolutely. It's the best way to debate what Star Trek is with people, is just to go, okay, well, why don't you just use the Writer's Guide that they made for it?
Here's
for
a
their
Bible.
Script submissions. Yeah.
All right, we've got a few minutes till halfway point. I think that's a good 15-minute mark to finish, because this is kind of grating. I don't know. It's kind of silly argumentation, and Jessie is just dismissing half the stuff anyway because she doesn't like it.
And the only time she actually brought context into it from an actual video, it was actually talking about something else, and the class disparity, not conflict within the crew itself.
That clip from the movie or whatever it was is just like, come on, that wasn't even a point to be made. Kirk is getting emotional. Oh my god.
They're not allowed to disagree with each other or have command conflict decisions, even though the story of that movie, the story of that movie is all about Kirk learning that he is getting older.
We all know that the most distilled version of Gene Roddenberry's vision was Star Trek: The Next Generation, seasons 1 and 2. Those were the seasons that were made when Gene Roddenberry alive, and when he had the most time to, craft and hone his vision. And those.
Why is that? I would argue that the writer's guide that we've been going over is the most distilled version of his vision because it's non-specific and allows you to fill in all the gaps.
Okay, the reason why she's going to do this is so that she can pull an example out of it and try and use that to knock everything down. So narrow it down to say, well, okay, so this is this, because basically trying to cut off exits to try and go to say, oh, you can't go to the original series because of this. You can't go to the films because of this. Oh, but you could go to Enterprise, and then she's going to cut it off there as well.
So let's take the worst episode from season 1. What was it? Like the racist one, Code of Honor, or
Code of Honor is a terrible episode.
Yeah, just pick a horrible episode. Yeah,
she's going to pick an example from that season, season 1 and 2, and then try and say, oh, well, you can't use that as an example anymore because this one episode, whether it was good or bad, or this, that, and the other, had a certain thing in its one part of it or something.
How much do you want to bet that the argument that is going to be made could be negated by another episode within the same season range? Let's find out.
I want to bet 50 credits.
50 credits.
Seasons are arguably
Specifically Republic
that
credits.
idea of zero conflict.
Nobody said zero conflict.
No one said this. Yeah.
Okay, so we've straw man. Go on, Fairy Joker. You were saying something.
Oh,
your volume is low, by the way, for me.
Sorry. Interpersonal relationships are not, Gene Roddenberry's vision was, like you said, the best distillation is the writer's guide. But on top of that, you've got the combination work of all the different people on cast. So if you're gonna, if everyone makes mistakes, if she's gonna point out one mistake, one example where everyone, the fandom agrees this is not very good, then it's like you were saying before, is a straw man.
It's totally a straw man because it's intellectual rather than physical or emotional conflict is the problem. They want physical and emotional conflict to be told through the story. They just don't want people that are on this ship to be like the people in lower decks that are completely sloppy. This is supposed to be a well-to-do flagship of a space navy, essentially.
And yeah, it's gonna. Well, she's pulling the straw man of. Oh, you can't have any conflict ever. Where it's like we all agreed there that none of us are asking for that. No one is saying that at all. That you should never have any kind of conflict whatsoever.
Remember in the beginning, right from the beginning of Farpoint, when in the beginning of the second episode or near the end of the first one, when Riker comes aboard, him and Picard have a conflict right off the bat about orders, saying that Riker never wanted to give up the captain, essentially. That was like his standard set. And Picard was like, you won't be dissuaded from this. And then Riker tells him no. And Picard basically accepts it. He says, okay, that's what you're going to do. I'll factor that into my plans, essentially. And gives him a positive attaboy, essentially, a pat on the back. Like, yeah, all right, we'll go, go do this where you're in charge now. From that, you have your command. And I have my command and we'll work together. So conflict is part of that. If the movie doesn't have conflict, then what do you have? Where's the drama? The whole point is that there's ethical conflicts. I mean, think about exactly here we go. The Negation, the Measure of a Man episode, the best episode from season 1 to season 2, and then leading into season 3. it's all about judging if Data is a person or if he's property, and it's all about the different conflicts between them. But at the core of that, number one Riker doesn't want to argue against his friend, because he personally is thinking, this is my friend, I serve with him, of course I don't believe in it, but he has to because of his duty. That is the kind of conflict that Star Trek is all about. Do I take the duty position, the ethical position, the position that the future might produce good benefits? Like there's the episode between Crusher and the other scientist to save Worf's legs because he's paralyzed. And it's a very risky procedure. The doctor that is saying we should do this risky procedure, that even if the patient dies, it serves the science of medicine that could lead into the future and save more people. Whereas Beverly Crusher is all about saving each individual person one at a time. And that they both have legitimate angles and perceptions. But what resolves the episode is a third aspect, something that is looming over all of the medicine and all of the ethics that are involved, and that's the idea that because they don't know that Worf has different physiology, his own physiology saves him in concert with the medicine that they put in. So Crusher and the doctor that I can't remember her name, they both can't really take credit for a success because it took all three of them working together. Again, the central idea of Star Trek, really, which is people, the main cast coming together from all different backgrounds for a singular purpose, to solve problems, to explore, and to go where no person has gone before, and to mediate conflicts.
To explore the
Intellectual drama.
strange new worlds.
To boldly go to the bathroom for a second. I'll be right back.
I can't tell who's being serious.
Well,
I guess he was.
We only got a minute and a bit to go, guys, so let's keep going.
Concept that was so rigidly enforced on the show that the show went through endless writers because they found it stifling to create anything worthwhile as a story during the first few seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Good, they were ciphering content, like quality.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, like to make sure that you're getting the quality, that you're getting what you want. What's the problem?
How dare the writer's room have arguments? Oh my goodness.
Do you know how many times, like, when people apply for jobs, how many they have to sift through, and they obviously sift through people who are going to be the best for that job. If you are not right for the job, if you are not best for that position, if you are not of the most quality, then they're going to pick someone else over you, and that is how hiring should work, and that is fine. It is fine to not have writers on your show because they're not going for what you want, or they don't. It's not. What's the best way to explain it? Smud, do you help me out here?
This is why you have a writer's room. I mean, this is why people get hired. So they don't hire the same writer 5 times over. They hire different people with different perspectives who can write this better or write that better, dialogue, setting, world building. And then when they come to heads, they say, well, I can't design the phaser to do that because it wasn't set up that way. You can't just change what we set up. So you need different perspectives in the writer's room who all agree eventually how a scene should be set up, how a character should talk, how a plot should be resolved. So,
and how bringing up what Jessie said is that they kept going through writers, and having standards isn't a bad thing. I mean, if that's what they were doing, if they were going through writers because they weren't able to write things to the standard that Gene Roddenberry set, then what's wrong with that?
Which is interesting because as soon as he was gone from the show, season 3 is where Star Trek really took off. It became more focused. So, and even in this scene, if you look at the conflict in the scene, one guy wants something, Picard disagrees with that, and then there's a huger or a larger conflict which involves a court case and a philosophical argument. So, it's not interpersonal issues where they hate each other. It's the very nature of what does it mean to be a living organism, and is it the property of an organization or not? That is a little bit more evolved and sophisticated than what we see in a slapstick comedy or whatever you want to call the comedy nature style motifs of Lower Decks.
Emotional and irrational. Irrational. You are endowing Data with human characteristics because it looks human, but it is not.
Gene Roddenberry even said crap like people wouldn't.
See, told you, any kind of conflict.
Slow down. Jessie Gender, by the way, is in the chat section apparently.
Oh shit! I didn't see that.
That's my point, by the way.
Hey.
That you can frame those things disingenuously. You can. You know what? I'm not going to say that you're 100% wrong that somebody could do that. But when you say the FandomMenace as a group of people, and you reference Doomcock, and then I don't know who you're talking about. There's a lot of people here. Everybody has a different opinion. I think Shiny said that earlier. We don't even agree with each other, and we don't even contest all the things that we disagree with. I think if Shiny and I had a conversation where we just chased down everything that we disagreed with, everybody would get pissed off. So we have to keep moving along with it. But there are points here that I think that are not being addressed. And if you want to have an actual conversation about that, I think most people on this panel are burnt out about it. But if we want to have an actual conversation about what Star Trek should be like, what should legitimately be considered canon, and why people are upset about Upper Decks, including things that have to do with their own biases, that'd be perfectly reasonable. But I think that would have to actually happen for that to happen. So if you want to have this we can have this thing where it's like a back and forth video to video thing, or you can come on and we can have a discussion sometime about Star Trek and try and act like we're all part of the Federation, and we can get along for the common purpose of the goodness of this show and its longevity. That'd be fine.
We're going to properly have a conversation offline, because we've dealt with these problems before with other people coming on. So, yeah, no, we're going to have our own...
I highly doubt, by the way, Smud, that it'll be like Xander Hall. I'm
no,
sure that
no,
Jessie
of course
wouldn't
not.
be that
No,
way.
I think Xander Hall is a special case, but still, we have to vet who comes on, for the sake of not having a shit show. And I don't think...
I admire the diplomacy. That's all I'm saying.
Discussions
I'll
like
be back. I actually do have to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Discussion we had with Make Stuff, it was actually... how do I describe it? It wasn't bad by any means. Like, John is actually pretty good. He's nice. Outside of the stuff he was saying in his video.
Well, that's the great thing about John. He's an intelligent, smart guy, and we just simply disagree with his view on logic and criticism. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We had a 5-hour discussion, and that was it. That was great. So we're not trying to make an enemy here. We're just listening to these arguments and going, you're missing the forest for the trees. You're not taking into account many things. And I wish that Jessie actually did reference individuals so that we knew the context and we could actually go to the videos that people made.
But as I said before, the one context that Jessie is going to is Doomcock talking about the class disparity. Yes. The little class separation in lower decks, where the upper decks are the higher class and the lower decks are the lower class, where the upper decks get all the good food, the upper decks don't respect the lower class, the lower decks, everything. And that's what he was talking about. And then Jessie somehow interpreted that as not seeing any kind, not having no conflict in Star Trek whatsoever, and then tried to compare things like banter or just people having disagreements.
Right.
Talked about that, yeah. Even though they're having disagreements, even though they're arguing, there's still respect there.
Right, and we could talk about that being just a scene for brevity, because that's the joke. She's so excited and then gets shut down very quickly. And we could talk about episode 4, where she ruins that entire person's meditation, but they make a whole scene of that where she's so sad that she doesn't have a friend anymore. She made someone angry, and then that becomes a whole thing, and then that becomes the butt of the joke. He ends up ascending anyway, and then that ruins lore. So we have all these things that it's all for jokes. We get it. It's all for jokes, but not at the expense of continuity. See, that's the problem here. That's pretty much the main problem with even Discovery and Picard. It's not the same Star Trek. They're breaking lore. They're retconning things. They're changing things that were set up to be a certain way. And as I said before, you can change things for the future. You can change how the Federation works, and it's now infiltrated by some other shadow group, or Nguyen Sung had a son or whatever. It's like, okay, you can do these things. You just have to make it believable. The same way the book for How to Write Star Trek is all about believability when writing a hard science fiction story for TV.
I'm back. I'm just going to say that my favorite thing to come out of this is that we're going to have a real discussion it it's more frustrating to respond to a video than a real person because you can't really get into sort of the motivations, and it's hard to formulate your argument when you're responding to pieces of an argument pausing at a time. You know what I mean? So I think it'll be positive, and then also we're talking about something that if we're going to talk about a dead man like Gene Roddenberry and what his wishes were and how his show that he created for us should proceed and what the canon should be, we should at least have the same spirit of that discussion exist, just like it would in the show.
Sure. So we're gonna end in another minute because I said so, because it's been going on for almost 3 hours and a half. So
yes, Captain.
Yeah, and after that we'll introduce. Hopefully, Jessie will click on the Discord link and.
She said to DM her.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, so when set up some sort of time when we can have just a short discussion offline or whatever, where we can discuss how we want to go about doing this, and I would like to have a genial discussion about one of my favorite TV shows.
This is what we do. This is what I do. As opposed to other chats, we're very, very focused on being friendly and open. So I welcome people on who will be as open as friendly as us. They don't have to be as nice. We've welcomed other people who weren't so nice, and that's fine. We said
I am a rhetoric like battle guy, but if I'm talking to a real person, it's a discussion. I'm much more interested in being on that same,
we're
just discussing.
When we're talking to a fanboy, we're all smiles. So Shiny would be happy to talk to anyone into anything space related. I think, Shiny, that's your passion in storytelling, science fiction in general. So Shiny's from the. Go ahead.
When we're talking in a discussion, I think it's different to how we talk about ourselves, because when we're talking amongst ourselves, we're not afraid like we're gonna like insult someone, and we're also a lot more comfortable with like banter and such.
There's much more banter that goes on when you're responding to a video with your boys.
True. Plus, I don't think Jessie is very what's the word, explosive. She's very chilled out compared to, let's say, Lava Chan or Vosh or other people who have criticized ourselves or LiteratureDevil or other people. So she's putting on she enjoys the topic. And
I'm just going to say that I'm much meaner to a video than to a person.
Yes, I think that's true.
That's how I feel about
There's also
production.
Effects and entertainment value as well.
Well, I don't mind being criticized. We've gotten this from Jack Saint and other folk, so it's not a big deal for me. But if they want to talk, that's great. I'm all for it. Anyway, 1 minute, we can do this. We'll say all the nasty things to Jessie before we actually have to get to talk to her.
If somebody on Twitter can send Jessie or just post the writer's guide that we've been using, I think that they would find that very helpful.
That's great.
I can try to do that right now.
All right, so because that'll help you understand. Everybody should know that was the intention. And just because somebody has the intention doesn't mean that people don't go off on tangents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many good episodes of Deep Space Nine are counter.
Yeah. This is one thing I say about criticism is that I don't care about your political ideology, your mentality, what was in your head, your mental state. All of that is completely irrelevant. It's all about the story and what we're given and shown. So the guide is good to show the mentality of why it went that way, but it's not the be-all, end-all of making movies, of making television. It's a whole complex process. So
yeah, but if LiteratureDevil, that guy, that toxic YouTuber comes on, I'm gonna attack him. You know what's happening.
Exactly. Hi there, LiteratureDevil. How's it going? Oh dear. Okay, let's go. Let's just go. LiteratureDevil's too busy. Maybe his internet's down. Who knows? Maybe he's talking through his phone. We never know with him.
He's probably doing videos, but I think that's the reason why he hasn't turned up more
Gene
lately.
Roddenberry even said crap like
video.
people wouldn't grieve in the 24th century. Like, people wouldn't grieve. Roddenberry said people wouldn't grieve. Like, we just don't care anymore? Don't care about other people? We just don't grieve? Yeah, it's fine. They're dead. Whatever. They lived a life, I guess. And you see in
someone's not perfect.
There it is. I was right. Oh, I was right. There we go. There's one of the worst episodes in Star Trek history, and she brought it up.
I mean, the thing is that this episode, just the way that I address this episode is that the time period African culture was so underrepresented that this was actually a gesture of goodwill, just like every other thing is. But it's so outdated at this point. It's like if somebody on Star Trek was like, Sulu, you're the Oriental, right? And you'd be like, well, what?
I remember watching this when I was a kid and going, that was different. Like the whole first season of TNG, which I enjoyed, was weird. All these there's Japanese anime references. There's all these technology things I didn't get. And this one was like, why is Tasha Yar fighting? Like I never quite grasped. And it's like, oh, because this man chose you as a mate. I'm like, what? Really?
So funny about the Tasha Yar thing is that Tasha Yar was influenced by Aliens with James Cameron, right? So they wanted to have a sort of cropped hair Hispanic firebrand type woman. And the original person that was hired to play that was Marina Sirtis.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right. But they changed it to Tasha Yar because Roddenberry didn't like the role better with Sirtis.
He swapped them.
Yeah.
He swapped and by the way, my biggest criticism of Next Generation, I think, is like on a character level, is that Troy is like the least interesting, least developed character and least useful character. Like I think when I'm writing my criticism for my video, one of the main things that I'm just sitting there thinking about every episode when I see Troy or any Betazoid is these people are supposed to be empaths that can like see into, you know, they feel emotion, and for the sake of the audience, they're supposed to represent that. They tell the audience what someone's feeling, or they act a certain way, and you take away their ability for the pupils to dilate, and you're taking away so much information that humans can convey. Like, you know what I mean? Like how they take away eyebrows for characters with the prosthetics that take away the expressions that humans have, so it gives it more of an alien perspective.
They made her
most
almost,
mammals have eyebrows.
They made her almost,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but they made her almost redundant when they introduced Guinan, and they had this other character who does exactly the same thing as she does, and she tends bar, and she's an alien, and she's super old, and she has a connection to Picard, and she's, you know, in whatever that crazy time story where those aliens were eating people from the past, and like there's so much more to Guinan, and all we have with Troy is that she has a crazy mom who's Majel Barrett, and she was in love with Riker once, and that was they do nothing with it.
I think the proper way to criticize TNG and Roddenberry's vision is that what didn't date was the core of Star Trek, but what dated was the idea of what television shows should be from Roddenberry. His idea of what television was dated by like 20 years. But his idea about what a good television show would be based on the ideas of it, based on the structure of how the system works in the universe, were still good. And it's still good to this day, I think. I think his vision of the future is excellent, but his vision of television was very 1960s, very 1950s, wagon train to the stars kind of thing.
All right. So let's just rewind a bit just so we understand what this point was, because I seem to have lost it.
Because it looks human, but it is not.
Gene Roddenberry even said crap like people wouldn't grieve in the 24th century. Like, people wouldn't grieve. Roddenberry said people wouldn't grieve. Like, we just don't care anymore? Don't care about other people? We just don't grieve? Yeah, it's fine. They're dead. Whatever. They lived a life, I guess. And you see in Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1 and 2, they're some of the worst seasons of Star Trek ever made. I'm honestly not trying to be hyperbolic about that. I think a lot of people agree that Star Trek The Next Generation Seasons 1 and 2, the ones that Gene Roddenberry had his most adherent, strict vision applied to, were the worst seasons of the show. You see...
But it's not because of his vision. It's because he's making a show from the 60s with all the same filming techniques. I'm making a video about this. You guys will see like how Star Trek evolved. When you get to season 3 and everybody's kind of gotten into their position, or Deep Space Nine, it still has all the same core elements, but it's now playing with other more timely issues.
Well, this is the same guy who was arguing back in the 60s that, what if we had an alien with 3 eyes or 4 arms? I mean, he even wanted Deanna Troi to have like 4 breasts, So he's doing all these ideas, and people are going, Gene, like just stop. Like the same.
So what you're saying is Gene is basically George Lucas.
Exactly. No, George Lucas has all these ideas. He's an idea guy. He's like, I can do this. I can do everything. It's like, George, whoa, stop, slow down. This is not science fiction. You're just pulling stuff out of your ass. Don't do that. So yeah, every visionary needs an editor.
It's that format that he set into motion that's so good, and then getting somebody that was like Rick Berman, who knew television at the time period, to get in there and actually produce scripts that had more that had developed since the original series. You know, you can't just keep going back. That's the main thing that was the problem with TNG in the beginning. You were repeating stories that were told from the '60s that weren't even the good ones back then, like The Naked Now. You know, a lot of the pleasure-seeking episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation are very weird.
They're a time period. Even the whole Eden, the quest for Eden, that is just, it's so dated because of the time showing the freedom movement and Woodstock, and you have like, what is it, Spock playing a sitar or whatever the hell it was, Vulcan instrument. It's like, okay. Interesting, wearing bell bottoms or here and there. So
yeah, the bell bottoms.
Yeah, this is a sign of the times, and we get it. Even the was TNG in the 89 or 88 when it started, but you still had that 70s hair or the 80s hair style.
Well, the fluffy hair.
Yeah. Even with Tasha Yar, even that sort of 80s feel, tomboyish cut. You had that influence. Even this.
It was 87, by the way.
87. Wow, jeez.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of influences from multiple sources. Even the Japanese, if anime was there. One of the first few episodes had a space station called Angel One, which is a reference to what anime I can't recall. It was either Dirty Pair or Gundam. But so there's all these little details that you're not aware of because they don't translate very clearly, and that's fine. So there's lots of craftsmanship that went into these shows. And we're not saying that a cartoon or a comedy cartoon can't be a bit lax. Is that they don't have to. They could just use what's there and maintain it while still trying to be a cartoon, which is hard to do. But the first reaction we all got from watching this, or even the trailer, was like, this is Rick and Morty. This is all it is.
Mm-hmm. It's attempting to be Rick and Morty.
It's done by the guys who made Rick and Morty.
It's not done by the guys. There's a writer on there which did do Rick and Morty.
Right.
I'll tell you, out of all the times to do a Star Trek branded farcical comedy, it's not this time because the drama shows are not firing correctly. I think that people in the Star Trek world have been desiring something as good as Deep Space Nine for decades, and it just hasn't happened. There hasn't been a single movie or a TV series or a mini series or anything that's even come close to some of the more mediocre episodes of Deep Space Nine. And it can have to do with the time, and it can have to do with who's in charge of it, and it can have to do with who's writing it and all that. But there's a very specific delta of comfort, adventure, and excitement and satisfaction that comes from TOS, Deep Space Nine, and the Next Generation at its best.
It really comes down to,
and we're just not getting that.
It really comes down to characters. We can list the great characters of DS9 and why they're great with Garrick and Cisco and Ducat. We get them. It's so clear. We can't say the same of Enterprise. We can't say the same of TNG. They're just not there.
I think that so much of Star Trek hinges on how good the main captain is and how they are able to project the rest of they set the tone more so than the set itself or the people that are around them. You know, you could have Kirk and Data having conversations. You could have Picard and Spock having interesting conversations. It wouldn't be as good, but you have to have those elements. Cisco and what the energy that he brings is very key. If you have a weak captain, and I would consider Archer to be weak in like the leading man kind of thing. Like we're taking a Shakespearean actor and Shakespearean stage actors who bring all of this energy and life force or command. You know, with Picard's voice, his voice alone could make you feel like you're in a command situation. That is key to making these shows work, and that has to be in concert with the set being and the set and the environments showing you a place that you want to be in. I want to be on the Enterprise bridge from TOS because it's so funky and fun. I want to be on the bridge in TNG. I want to visit Deep Space Nine and go to Quark's bar and have fun and play all these games and do all this goofy stuff. I don't want to be on board the NX Enterprise. I don't want to be on board the Discovery, and I really don't want to be anywhere near the Picard universe at all. And if you're in Lower Decks, you're basically screwed if you don't have the plot armor of the main characters, because it's a Rick and Morty thing where everything around the characters can be chewed up and spit out without anything meaning anything.
Yeah,
so
but
it's frustrating.
the Lower Decks could have worked if it was about different alien species like the Ferengi or maybe the Cardassians, where
I'm not even sure.
psychopathy would actually fit in. You know, where I can see Cardassians not caring about the lives of their crewmates.
I'm not sure a Cardassian show, exclusively Cardassian, would work.
No, I mean, like, the idea behind Star Trek was that the conflict is primarily external. There's alien species and scenarios that you're in concert with that you have to deal with. If you kept the comedy, like, everyone's fine. Like, imagine Roddenberry's vision, everyone gets along, but then some Ferengis come by and they got this crazy plot and they're going to make all this money and they're going to sell everyone to slavery. It's ha ha ha. Like, okay. It's kind of...
I think it's...
something like that.
Go on, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so
I think it's kind of a misnomer, just that Gene created a world where everybody gets along. I don't think that's... I think everybody in the Federation understands that they have the same, like, privileges, benefits, rights, foundations, and purpose. They're all on board the same overall thing. And when people step outside of that, then they're usually an opposing viewpoint, or they're doing it for a different motive. The agenda of humanity is all on board the same thing. How they accomplish that is what a lot of the conflict comes from. What does that mean? What does it mean to follow the Prime Directive? Does it mean not saving a civilization? Does it mean transporting it? There's so many different ways of interpreting a very, very basic core principle that sets the Federation into place. That doesn't mean we can't have conflict, and it doesn't mean that we can't have inner conflict between people on board a ship or people in an area or whatever. That's usually the driving force of the plot, is personal conflict based on the interpretation of what the right thing to do is. If you remove doing the right thing from Star Trek, it's no longer Star Trek. You can't have a Star Trek thing where just doing whatever is the protagonist's, you know, does Ensign Mariner think she's doing the right thing all the time? Yeah, but why doesn't the audience know that? Why doesn't the audience understand? Why are we bamboozled and put along the same path as Boimler? That's insulting to the audience when the whole point is to bring them into something, or to play off what they don't know for the sake of drama and that kind of thing. The illogical aspects of just the episode where Lower Decks, where the solution to Boimler and his stupid self-esteem is to pretend that a Ferengi is something else or whatever. Right? The audience would see that coming a mile away, but it's not explicitly presented to the audience because they don't have enough confidence that this thing is something that can come up later. They're not laying little pieces that are then unfolded. The main thing that's in all of the pilot episodes of Star Trek is uncovering a mystery. Most of it is, like in the Man Trap, it's who the salt monster. What's going on there? Let's figure out who the salt monster is before he kills all of us or whatever. When it's the Cage, it's we're stuck in this menagerie and I want to get out of here. How are we going to get out of here? Oh, we got to use this thing. It's solving a set of problems using logic and reason. And that's what's missing from Lower Decks to me. It's like they'll do something, they're going to set up the logical thing, and then Mariner will go, you don't need to do that. That's stupid. Just use this matter replicator and send it to warp back in time, and then everything will be fine. But she doesn't even say it. She just does it, and then we and Boimler feel stupid. She's like, oh, we were just too dumb to understand this thing that they pulled out of their ass.
Anyway, let's try to get through this point, and then we can call it a night.
In actuality, the best usage of Roddenberry's vision, that, you know, sort of idea of a better future, isn't that there is absolutely no conflict, but that having conflict and people actively recognizing and taking time to focus on fixing their mistakes or bettering themselves or having conversations that arise out of conflict lead to making ourselves better. It's not that everyone is automatically the same and there's no conflict and no one disagrees. It's
That sounds like me right now.
that those disagreements make us better in and of themselves. And it's shown clearly.
And then how does that relate to Lower Decks?
Exactly.
Yeah,
How does that fit into Discovery or Picard? How does that fit into Picard? Oof.
That's a big oof.
That's a great statement that she made, and it's not present in New Trek. with like how Tendi was dismissed, labeled and dismissed by the officer. She never. There's no resolution to that. There's no one growing from that.
Yeah, the officer doesn't change. The officer doesn't grow. There's no subplot. There's nothing. It just that's the scene.
I'm not listening to be anything, but I do keep forgetting that Joker's here.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. It's just quiet.
Yeah, his volume needs to go up.
Wait, who's with us? Oh yeah, it's Joker.
The Joker. All right, let's get to what the next end of the statement, I guess,
Yeah.
and then we're done. Because
Clearly in characters like Michael Burnham on Discovery, who screwed up but worked to redeem herself and her belief in Starfleet's ideals. It was taking that idea and making it a specific character arc of the character of Michael Burnham. As Roddenberry...
that would be good. That would be like interesting if we liked the character, but it's very specifically like oriented and focused on her. And that's a lot of the problem that
even
people have
Saru
with it.
knows how great she is, but how dangerous she is because she's so smart. She's the smartest officer he's ever seen. It's like, what? What? Is she good or bad? What is she? She's dangerous. Oh, okay. She doesn't believe in saving her captain. I know. What was that? He killed her I can't even get after the first episode. I could barely watch it. I don't know what it was wrong with it. It just did not feel like Star Trek.
Yeah, I did. I'm not a big fan of the Discovery either. I didn't really bother watching much after a few first episodes. Same thing keeps happening with Picard and all this stuff. It's just like, I went back and watched, like I said, the first episodes of all the other shows, even Voyager and Deep Space Nine. It's like there's still something there, even though they're not the best episodes of the series. I still am so fascinated by
Voyager had some promise. Like you could see the ideas behind Ensign Kim or Tom Paris. Like it's like, oh, I get what they're going to maybe do with that character. You get it. Redemption.
The premise is had an amazing amount of potential. There was so much they could actually do with the show. The problem is that the show never strived to be anything more than mediocre.
Yeah, B'Elanna was just B'Elanna, the angry little Klingon engineer, and that was it. She gets married and she has a kid. That's it. That's her.
The only characters which do get any kind of development or change are the Doctor and Seven of Nine.
Yeah.
And I know some people have said, "Oh, well, they've given it all to them, and they've never given anyone else any time." No, they've given plenty of characters, plenty of time, with plenty of episodes. But the thing is, the reset button of Voyager just means that they keep resetting everything they do to these characters all the time.
Yeah.
Which means that none of them can ever grow. And the reason why people often refer to the Doctor as one of the best characters on Voyager is because he's one of the ones that does develop, that does have these fantastic character episodes.
Which is hilarious because you're taking a look at the AI and the Borg person. It's just like, okay, all the other humans on board can't develop, really? The machine and the Borg person, all right.
I remember the actor of Kim and the actor of Chakotay were really pissed off with how they were treated. They were really upset about that they never got any kind of development. They never got any good character episodes.
Wait. Season 5, Chakotay, we find out he likes boxing. He boxed.
Oh, the boxing
terrible episode. No, that was terrible.
The Voyager is just, it's such a repeat of TNG with a bunch of characters that are less interesting.
Yeah.
It's just
TNG light, essentially. No, if you dare say the Doctor's less interesting than Data, I will punch you.
The EMH?
Yeah, the EMH.
EMH is better than Crusher, but not better than McCoy. I mean, I usually categorize people in whatever role they're in.
McCoy's better, but yeah, he's definitely better than Crusher.
There's no character from Voyager that you choose in a position over another character from another series. That's the problem. Like the captain, nope. I got Picard, Kirk, and Sisko all fighting for which is my favorite. Security officer, obviously I like Worf. It's the best right there. I don't even think the original one even had that. But you know what I'm getting at. Nobody goes, "Oh, my favorite character, Kim. I loved Lieutenant Kim."
The forever
Nobody does
ensign. Yeah, he never gets a promotion. Saves the day.
Oh, Ensign Kim?
Yeah.
I thought he got promoted by the end of it.
No, what's his name? Tom Paris did.
Oh, okay.
I love how
I don't remember that shit.
in the course of 7 seasons, Tom Paris got demoted and promoted.
Yes.
And then no one else got any promotions. No one.
Here's That's So Skaven. New Trek shows 7 Klingons. Everyone hates Q. 2.5 red shirts. Really?
I love it. Yeah. What is the oh Jesus. My brain is intentionally preventing this from getting out in the universe. All right, keep going. I'm not going to make a joke about it.
All right, Joe Crazy. One final movie night recommendation, Double Down by the greatest filmmaker in history, Neil Breen. No.
I'm down to watch that. I'm down to watch the Neil Breen ones.
Really?
You guys, yeah. I'm one of them at least because I haven't seen them.
They are they're like a guy
They're
in
terrible.
his basement making something and he thinks he's amazing. And he's so just, I think I'm great and I'm going to make a great film. And it's like, no, you're not. You have no idea what you're doing.
Just randomly, isn't the Doctor trying to teach 7 of 9 about humanity, kind of like the blind leading the blind?
Yes, but that's the beauty of it. That's the show. Like there's times in Babylon 5 where the show becomes about these secondary characters and it's beautiful. And even though the main plot keeps going on, you have this other side plot, which is great. They focused on that a lot because there was some episodes where he gets rejected by that race who loves opera music or whatever it was, and he only has a certain vocal range, and then they create an AI that's superior to him.
Yeah, he likes his fame, he gets obsessed with it, and then he realizes that they don't actually care about him, it's only his music.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of great episodes.
Why does the Doctor get all the good episodes? Like, he has some good ones.
Is this volume better?
There you go.
Okay, good.
Here is Taker 610. Double Down is not a movie. It is an okay. We have to watch a Neil Breen film. Is this what it's coming down to? Are we gonna have a movie?
Neil Breen.
I think
Neil Breen Wars.
Brothers first.
All right. So we'll talk to Lit Dev, see if he wants to do it. Oh, jeez.
He's gonna hack the Pentagon, you guys.
Yeah, just another one of these. Oh boy. All right, let's keep going, and we'll get to the end of this point, and call it a night.
Another super chat.
Dolomaticus. Sadly, the Star Trek Online is the best written Trek really for the past 10 years due to actually having writers that were on Trek. I wish more people knew. Yeah, this is beyond. I had no
Game
clue.
is like 10 years old.
From time to time, it does tell like some all right stories. And even when it's not like the best, it's still at least it feels like Star Trek, if you get what I mean. Like
Really makes you feel like Star Trek.
It's very it's I'm trying to think of what the right word is.
The tone?
Respectful, or sorry, what?
The tone, the look,
tone, the look,
vibe.
everything. It's very much going for that. What Star Trek was back in like TNG, Voyager, Enterprise, Deep Space Nine. In fact, they have a lot of expansions revolving around these. I think one of my favorite ones, I don't know why I always remember it so much, is when they kind of expand upon what happened to the Dominion fleet, which vanished in the wormhole. I thought that was a pretty interesting storyline, which they went with for one of the, I think they call them seasons or expansions. Whatever the hell that they called them.
All right, let's go.
It's not the best storytelling, but it's enjoyable. It's good. It's Star Trek.
We must strive to be more than we are, Law. It does not matter that we will never reach our ultimate goal. The effort yields its own rewards.
These appeals to Roddenberry's vision by the FandomMenace are really appeals to a type of storytelling that was only articulated as a beautiful philosophy that Star Trek tries to reflect, and the only time that it was actually put into real practice in actual story arguments made for arguably the 2 worst seasons of Star Trek ever made, The Next Generation Seasons 1 and 2, come out.
Wait.
I don't understand how the whole thing is launched on that premise. So that the entire series is predicated on this.
Yeah,
it's not a genuine argument.
But the whole show is built around it. It doesn't matter if Gene Roddenberry passed away after season 2. It's still building off of Gene Roddenberry's vision. It's still building off of Gene Roddenberry's world, and it's still actively respecting and catering towards Gene Roddenberry's world.
Not everything he made was perfect. I mean, Glib was saying earlier, I think, he was thinking of a mindset of making TV shows in the 60s when he was making TNG in the first 2 seasons. That he didn't have a good handle on what he was making. So
let me just say that I think that it's totally about him not having a good handle on television in 1987, and it has nothing to do with him not having a good handle on morals, ethics, or how he wanted the show to be formed based on its structure. He knows what Star Trek is. He knows how to advance it. He knows what changes to make. Originally, he didn't want to do the show. He didn't want to be the showrunner because he thought it took too much time out of his family life. So it's so weird that it's like Jesse's saying this was the time that he was going to have full authoritative control and all that stuff. It's like, I don't know if that ever happened, because at this point, he just wanted specific things to be there to execute on his behalf. He wanted Klingons to be with the Federation. Flat out, that was like one of the things, you know what I mean? But other than that, I'm not exactly sure that he was hands-on with every episode. I highly doubt it. I think that he was somebody that was working with a different associate producer, and he was just the idea guy. I mean, I would say Justman was the original guy, and then Berman when he came in.
And these types know that. They know they're holding these current shows of modern Trek to an unrealistic standard because it sounds good and appeals to this version of an idealistic.
It's really not an unrealistic standard. Like even though Voyager is at times poorly written, it still is going for what Star Trek is supposed to be.
Ideals are not standards.
And so there is quality, and there is staying in line with continuity, and there is tone, and there is trying to stay in line with everything that came before. And it's very difficult to try and go off and do something different while staying true to what came before. And I think Deep Space Nine is a very good deconstruction, because deconstructions are hard to do, but it does it well.
It's not a deconstruction, though, because it still upholds the same ideals. It's just that it's challenging.
Okay. I'll explain that. Certain times, it does challenge. And
all the time, yeah.
Deconstruction. Not all the time, but at certain times, in certain episodes, there are moments which it does a deconstruction, but then it puts... Things about deconstruction, it's not smashing it. It's like, deconstructing it, looking at how it works, and then putting it back together at the end to still have what you had before. And
when has the Federation been evil in up to Enterprise? It's usually some admiral that's like going out beyond his scope of duty, right?
Yeah, it's always an admiral going crazy, yeah.
Or the closest you get to the Federation as an entity being the bad is when you have the Maquis.
Right, even that's then, Voyager, right?
That's just, no. That's
DS9.
But
that's near the tail end of it, right? And that leads into Voyager. That's actually the least. The Dominion War is kind of my least favorite part of Deep Space Nine. But go on, yeah.
Well, it's not the Dominion War anyway. But the way Cisco says that the misunderstanding between the people who live on Earth in the Federation, that live in the core worlds, and the misunderstanding between them and the Maquis, he brings up that they live in paradise, but the Maquis do not live in paradise. They live in a war zone. So, and that's something they don't understand, and that is something which is actively being pointed out by the show, and that's still in line with everything we've been told. It's not a contradiction at all, and it's written well, so it works.
Yeah, and it was in the writer's guide that outposts and parallel societies could display those kinds of not discontinuity, but not upholding Starfleet ideals.
Well, it's easy to be a saint in paradise, as Cisco's saying.
Indeed,
they don't live in paradise.
I think the idea was that he wanted to take the vision of Roddenberry. This is what's his name? Ira. I can't remember his name. It's a weird name to pronounce. Ira something. He said he wanted to turn it on its head. He didn't want to take it apart. He wanted to make things that were broken, and like the space station was broken. The war was not ready. Was not finished. They were in a state of conflict all the time. So they got characters they liked, and they sort of put them onto the set. And I remember the attitude of the set was very serious because they wanted to get things right. and it wasn't as fun as TNG. TNG was much more, what was the word? Laid back, entertaining for behind the scenes. Everyone had a great time. It was less serious, the production. Whereas DS9 was like, we got to prove ourselves to do this thing because it was a risk, it was a gamble. And it was happening around the same time, I think, near the end of season 6 or 7 of Star Trek. Can't remember the exact date, but it was taking from both productions. So it was definitely a challenge to make DS9. And this is all
Deep
after...
Space.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
And this was all during the whole pitching to Paramount with Babylon 5, and then that coming out, and that competing. So there was lots of great sci-fi in the 90s. So.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention.
All right, let's finish this point and let's call it a night, guys.
Cool.
They know they're holding these current shows of modern Trek to an unrealistic standard because it sounds good and appeals to this version of an idealistic vision of Gene Roddenberry that never actually existed in practice.
What?
I'm gonna have to rewind that. Sorry.
Okay.
She's saying
that's a very loaded statement.
To an unrealistic standard because it sounds good and appeals to this version of an idealistic vision of Gene Roddenberry that never actually existed in practice.
Unrealistic expectations of an idealistic thing that never existed in practice. That's very.
That's also coming off her misunderstanding, because we never said that you should never have conflict. And the thing we're talking about specifically is the disparity between the class thing with the upper decks and lower decks, and that's not the same, because that's more in terms of prejudice than it is actually just people disagreeing, and it's more to do with things like respect and all that. So no, it's not unrealistic, and it was a vision which once existed, and that was held very closely to Star Trek originally.
Jord Kells, he says, so like socialism, basically the meme. Real Star Trek has never been tried. But I think that that's a revisionist way of looking at it. You have a writer's guide, you have laws of a country, you have rules or orders or whatever, and then the context and reality is going to challenge those things. And creativity is one of those things in the fictional world that challenges those things. So if every episode of this thing didn't follow every rule of the writer's guide, that's not going to disqualify it from being made, even in the time that Gene was working in 1960s, and even on his own scripts. He might not follow that. But the idea that you should follow that, those are the standing orders. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the whole point of having those rules in the first place. And that's what we're trying to uphold. We're not trying to deconstruct or tear down the set of things before the audience, and then go, this is why it doesn't work. This is why my criticism. You want to show that the thing that you're interacting with, you understand, and that you're supporting this idea, while at the same time challenging it and creating what you think is the best outcome for the people that are the protagonists. Because if you're a writer on this show, you're kind of taking responsibility for the idea that these are the protagonists, these are the heroes, these are the characters I have to care about. You can't just have a bunch of different writers who are like gonna pick different characters that they like and highlight those characters and then leave behind the other characters, because it creates an unbalanced show. You can't go, I like Worf a lot, so we're only going to do Worf episodes this season. That doesn't work. You have to follow the general path of the show and use those as guidelines to build your thing. And if you break a rule necessarily or bend it, now you have to decide which kind of rule that is. You can't, for example, invent a moon for Vulcan. That doesn't work because Vulcan has no moon. But if you have a Vulcan that does something that is not very Vulcan, that's not going to break the entire rule of the show, because it's not changing an essential aspect. You have an individual outlier, just like regular people. You have all sorts of phenomena that happen in Star Trek that are seemingly impossible, or that could change so much. But the reason why they don't is because that's a temporal anomaly, or this is something that is happening that's not usual. In search of the unusual is what makes it exciting. So the usual aspects of Star Trek have to be reliable. We have to have the holodeck, and we have to have the replicators, and if we don't, there has to be a contextual reason for it. Like, what's it called? Cisco's kid doesn't have a bed, and the replicators for the food aren't working, so you got to eat rations. But if they removed replicators from the show, people would be like, I don't understand that. Why are you removing something that's an essential piece of equipment to this universe that should be almost ubiquitous or desired? That's what I would trade for. A matter replicator. Immediately, I'd want one of those because then you could just eat.
The argument
just
she's
need
making
patterns.
is about the idealized view of Star Trek. We don't need an idealized view of Star Trek. We have the objective observations of all the shows and the tone and the content and the styles of storytelling, the episodic method. So we don't need to put it on a pedestal. It's already there. We can just point to it and say, look at these episodes. They do things a certain way. The conflict is not centralized on two major characters from the Federation. Sometimes you get one of those. Someone mentioned in the chat the USS Pegasus, which was this big secret operation, this secretive spaceship that Riker was a part of. Backstory, a little bit of exposition on his character, and the conflict therein. So you can have these individual outliers of episodes, but that's never the focus, because that's not the goal. So,
but like in Star Trek Discovery, they have Klingons putting their dead in sarcophaguses and then putting them on the outside of their hulls as a cultural thing that they all do.
That's weird.
Yeah. It's like stuff like that breaks the not only suspension of disbelief that you're watching a Star Trek show, but it's a needless change to a society that made sense already.
We're all like the whole idea of that they retrieve their dead when they don't care about like dead
the
body.
Yeah,
they don't care about the bodies.
The soul is already
the dead
gone
body
to
thing is
Tovacor.
the Klingons, right? And they're the ones that are like, as soon as the body dies, it's no longer, it doesn't matter. It's just
But then what they do is, it's been a long time since I watched the first episode of Discovery, so if anyone wants to correct me, just in case I'm wrong. When they're collecting the dead of the Klingons that are drifting in space, and these like all these little tiny little tractor beams, tiny little tractor beams, but don't know why they don't use transporters. I'm pretty sure that'd be more efficient. But like, don't they use that somehow to like put bombs on their ship?
They put one proton torpedo on a dead body as it's being pulled in by a tractor beam.
I'm not sure how you'd put a torpedo on a body, since the torpedoes are bigger than the body.
Well, it was just the explosive device inside of it. It was about the size of a volleyball.
Okay. So, and that was just invented for the terms of the plot.
Indeed.
Just because they wanted to get a bomb on the ship, rather than... So they actively changed the society just so they could get a bomb on their ship.
It's a plot device. Wow. Yes.
And then that one torpedo blew up the ship from the inside and created such a catastrophic damage that it separated, one part of the ship from another. I don't know how realistic that is, but it felt weird watching it.
Anyway,
I'm not even sure a torpedo would do that much damage.
all right. This is really the last time we're gonna finish this point.
We're talking about a ship which plowed through the Federation's capital ship of the fleet. Like, so the capital ship, the flagship of whatever fleet that was there, whatever admiral was capturing that ship, the Klingon ship like pretty much rammed the main ship while it was cloaked.
Yeah, that was odd.
It's just like, if it's strong enough to ram ships, I'm pretty sure it could withstand a torpedo.
All right, come on, guys, let's go.
Yes, okay.
You can argue how modern Trek tries to uphold Gene Roddenberry's vision is not to your taste or fails to work, but argue that on the show's own merits, not in an appeal to a godlike authority upholding unrealistic standards that even the things you're comparing it to, like Star Trek The Next Generation, didn't even meet.
Oh, that straw man just destroyed, just disintegrated.
That's not fair at all. Like, referring to the writer's guide is to inform intent. This is what was intended. This is why it's historical. It's a document to provide evidence. Looking back at the shows and waiting what I liked about the show or what I objectively observe about the show with how it's received, I think is valid in informing me about how I would write the next generation of whatever Star Trek series they come out with. I think just like Star Wars, it's another great timeline that's been messed with so much, that had so much potential at so many different points, that it's frustrating for people. So when we go and we refer to these things, we're trying to be informative. I think that if you look at people's top 10 worst episodes of, or top 20 worst episodes of TNG or whatever, or any season, you'll find a lot of similarities. There are episodes that quite clearly people do not like, that quite clearly there are episodes that would not work in a modern context, like What Little Girls Are Made Of or whatever. That's just, wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to do another Naked Now episode. But doing long, if we're objectively looking at something like Picard, I don't think that it's necessarily a mistake to make a long serialized episode. Like, instead of doing individual episodes, it's this big story. I'm not going to criticize them for doing that, but it's going to lead into some shiny or me saying how they did it was wrong. So you have to be specific. You can't use this giant brush to say all of these things are wrong, because we could do the exact same thing in reverse. It's just not fair.
I just really love the joke by Semantic Dragon, the quote of the Nausicaan, because it sounds like he's saying grandma. It's like Glamja or whatever the phonetics.
Oh yeah, play Damjat, puny
human. Like, what?
Human.
You have no grandma. I'm like, what?
yeah. You have no grandma. Yeah, I love that.
That's great. Yes,
I won't play Damjat.
Yeah. That was that Tapestry? What was that? That where he loses his heart blows up and he gets a second chance and he goes back in time.
Where he goes back in time and I think that's Tapestries. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
That's usually on people's top 20 episodes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Top 20 episodes of Star Trek TNG.
That's a total what if episode.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, where we arbitrarily list things for no reason.
All right. This is really going to be the last time until someone interrupts the video and pauses it again to say something. All right.
I didn't pause it.
Uh-huh.
Second start of the left.
Number 6, creators hate.
All right, we're done. Yes, thank you. 8. Okay,
and straight on till morning.
We got it. 16, 18. We'll see you guys next time. 16 minutes, 18 seconds into Jessie. Maybe we'll have Jessie on before that. I don't know. We're going to find out. Because
I really don't want to be 16 minutes into Jessie. That's not a thought I want.
All right, guys. That was great. We're going to finish it off regardless of Jessie coming on or not. I think it's worthy to take these points and break them down. So thanks for Fairy Joker for recommending this video. Sorry it took so long to get to it, but that's why I had you on. I wanted to actually attempt it. I wasn't expecting to go on this long. We're still not even 60% done, but we're getting there. So
also, it's not terrorism if it's against the Cardassians. Anyway.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate all your patience and our dwindling attempts at stopping the video. But, yeah.
I appreciate the majority of you attending our symposium. Did it serve you well?
We're coming up to the 4-hour mark. Wow. Longest in a while. So we had some requests for doing a movie night for Neil Breen and Con Air and all. We'll talk about that later. I think our brains are a bit too fried right now. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Everybody, go watch Star Trek right now.
Do it.
Loser.
Yes. Watch the Xindi arc on Enterprise. It's very good.
Watch, yeah.
Just go. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll talk to you real soon. And hopefully we'll have Fairy Joker on again to finish this off. I don't know. We'll find out. Have a great night.